Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Maxi Tyken, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Sampson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Open Minded, Dal West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Wind Rider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
How does the C-17 take off in North Carolina, fly around the North Pole, and make it back to New York? Like, because he flew in a fucking circle, you moron.
Yeah, they do that very, very often, isn't it? If I'm on a sphere, I'll observe this. I observe this. Therefore, I'm on a sphere. Yeah, we know.
Morning,
Morning, Nathan.
Morning, Nathan.
Oh, hello. And hello, John. John, you there? That's not good. Check, 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 check. Yeah, you can definitely hear me. I can see my line dancing up and down in there.
Yeah, you're good on Discord.
I'm pretty sure I'm good on G+ as well. I'm just not getting a reply. Neil, give me a reply, and then I'll tell him shut up. Just for fun.
I'm sorry. My phone's acting like crap right now.
I don't know if I can hear anything in G+. Neil, can you say something so we can check if we can hear G+?
How you doing, Nathan? Everything good?
Yeah, can you not hold your mic wide open, for God's sake, Neil?
Oh, Neil.
Neil.
What? I just turned it on.
Come on,
Just messing with you.
I was saying, did I have it on the whole time? I didn't realize.
I'm just messing with you, Neil.
Is my mic working?
Yes, it is.
Shit.
No swearing,
I'm
please.
I'm in Jewtown today. Jewtown, USA. Williamsburg,
Jewtown?
Brooklyn.
What's Jewtown?
Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Williamsburg is the Jewish community.
Absolutely.
What kind of Jews? Hasidic Jews, is it called? Hasidic?
Yeah,
I
the
think
weird
so.
ones that have the black hats on, and the tassels,
curly
and the
cues.
long black coats, and the curls. Yep.
Cool.
Those are
the
called
ones you wanna-
seats.
Those are the ones you want to do more business with. They're the ones that, well, in my experience, I can only speak from what I've experienced with that particular cross-section of society, if you want to call it that, is that they're very shrewd negotiators, and they like good quality
What
stuff.
they pay.
That's what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah. That's good, isn't it?
Fell off.
That's good, isn't it? Or at least I saw it as good when I was a salesman.
Yes, it's very good. Then they chew you down, but you got to be smart. You got to go in higher than what you expect to get. And they're not dumb to that either. But, you know, hey, listen, it's fair and they pay, and that's it.
An interesting.
Yeah, people are people generally. I mean, there are certain traits that could easily be spun into, well, you're a racist for saying that this particular group in society has these traits. Well, I don't care. It's just true. Those stereotypes are there for a reason, and that's just the way it is. You don't have to like it.
Because they're real. Because it's true.
It's a stereotype.
You know,
it becomes a fallacy if you're doing it for humorous effect to make a generalised sweeping statement, which is the fallacy in itself. Then you get a pass because it's humorous, or you're just generalising for humorous effect, or to make a quick example that could easily be pulled apart, right? But it's when you say, because you are, let's say in this example, Jewish, you will be that shrewd negotiator. Now, that's obviously a positive thing to say about somebody, so it's much easier to describe because I'm not going to get any flack for this, right? But let's say that was a negative connotation. You are X because you're that particular group. That's unreasonable. Same goes for being a shrewd negotiator. Not all Jews are shrewd negotiators. That's just not true. It's a generalisation.
Well, I'll tell you what, none of them know how to cross. Hasidic Jews do not know how to cross the freaking street.
No, it's their street, dude. They'll just cross where they want.
Yeah, you don't know how they know how to cross the street. You just don't know how they know.
Listen, when you realize that we are just goyim to them, then you realize why. They just cut right in front of you. They don't even acknowledge you. And in the supermarket, you can't even get nothing. Yeah, I know. What are you going to do?
Well, exactly. What are you going to do? You can't help being scum.
Hey, I have something. I might not be able to stick around for the live show, but the question: any viable hypothesis for astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? I think I have a black swan debunking.
You mean you can answer the question? You love a challenge, don't you? This is from a couple of shows ago, right?
I'm going to bet against John this time.
It's only going by his confident tone. I don't think I would, but given that I was skeptical that he could do it with axial rotation, and now I use that as one of the sharpest tools I've got. So I'm not going to bet against him. You may if you wish, Neil.
He said he's going to debunk the black swan.
No, that's not. No, that's not what he meant. No.
All right, here it is. Okay, because my phone's crap. I'm not going to be able to stick around for the show. I'll just be wasting everybody's time if I did. But the question's any viable hypothesis, right?
I'll just deliver it to you. Any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
How can you have a viable hypothesis if your observed phenomenon is invalid?
How can you have a valid hypothesis if your observed phenomena is not valid? If your observed phenomena is not valid, that would be to imply that you haven't observed an effect occurring. There's been no phenomena to observe.
Sorry. The description of your phenomenon is not valid.
The description of the phenomena that occurred is an invalid description. Therefore, how can you have a valid hypothesis? You can't. If you detail the DV incorrectly, then it's not your DV.
Right. So when
you
you
put
R
that
into any description,
after they come back to you.
Oh, Guy, whoever's talking straight through this. Hello? Go ahead, John.
So when you put R in the description of anything within their cosmology, it invalidates any supposed hypothesis.
That would be correct. If any valid hypothesis came forth in regards to a light in the sky for the sake of argument, the moment that effect was described with the radius, i.e. in presuppositional orbit, then it would automatically be invalid. That's correct. So that's the good news. Excellent work. Now do you want the bad news? That wasn't one step. That was about 5 steps. Very good, though. And you're right. I'll assume there's a child emergency going on right now. Speaking of child emergencies, I was told by my wife in no uncertain terms that during the hours that she is working and I'm supposed to be looking after the children, that I am not to be editing videos and doing work. That this is So I've been told off today for doing too much editing work.
They must be all reading from the same script because my wife has been giving me a hard time lately.
I was just about to say the same thing.
We're all getting moaned at. That's why the silence. I just thought, oh, nobody relates to this.
Oh, what did I miss? Good morning.
You didn't miss
I'm
anything.
sure I can relate.
Women issues.
I was saying I got moaned at because while I thought I was being attentive enough. I was giving them ice cream, making sure they got activities to do. I gave them a box to paint, things like that. But it wasn't 100% of my attention. I was editing a video, right? She made clear I knew that today, so I got told off.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely relate.
It's just not enough hours in the day. Why can't we have a 30-hour day? What's wrong with the world? Is it not beyond their mathematicians to give me a 30-hour day? That's what I need. There's around enough hours.
Can they make the sun stick around for just a little bit longer?
Well, my wife was saying that it's getting darker a lot quicker. By me, that is.
Well, if they made a 45-second minute, then you could have a 30-hour day.
A 30-second minute wouldn't give you a 30-hour day.
A 45-second minute.
Oh, I misheard you.
30-hour day.
Sorry, misheard you.
Sorry.
You just did that on the fly.
I just did the quick maths, and that isn't long enough either. I need more.
You're a regular Neil deGrasse, huh?
Just need more time.
Turns out. Sorry.
Go on.
Yo,
We don't need.
he's an arrogant son of a gun. I can't stomach him. Somebody
magic.
debate him.
There's some magic in the air I detected from Discord.
Turns out there's a magic speed in which if an asteroid strikes the moon at any angle, it's going to leave a circular impression. Got a magic speed for everything, motherfucker. Excuse me.
Excellent,
Sorry.
but watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth with magic
Sorry,
speeds.
I'm worse than the New Yorkers, man. I have a problem.
Anyway, with that, you know what bothers me about him the most? The way when he's finished with something, he's like, bam! Like, are you serious? You're getting over on somebody that's all freaking dolly-eyed and gaga over you. Try that with a real flat earther.
Well, when he's saying magic speed, I mean, you have to understand the absurdity of different materials. They're not. It's not like there's like some force that's making them go a uniform speed. They're all going based on the size and trajectory, a specific magic speed for that specific projectile to make a perfect crater. That's insane.
Well, you forgot to mention the craters on the Earth's side. How the fuck did those get? Excuse me, I'm sorry, Nathan. How the heck did those get there?
It's okay. That's why we have a pre-show, so I don't have to tell you off during a live show.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so that the asteroids go through the Earth and then hit the moon, or what?
This is. Hold on. Who's going to address the string of assumptions before that question gets answered?
Well, it's all fake. It's all
Asteroids aren't
bullshit.
really.
Second law of thermodynamics violation.
Right. I mean, I say it, and you might think, "Oh, yeah, we know," but that's the first thing you go to. Where's this all happening?
Yeah.
These magic speeds with asteroids hitting rocks in the sky vacuum. It's in a sky vacuum. No, it isn't. Making every bit of that explanation completely bunk from the off.
That's exactly what I'd say if he was here, you know. But I don't know, just shooting the shit.
That's good.
I like how you've been playing them against each other, taking yourself out of the equation or the argument. Like, no. It's not me. It's not me. It's Neil and what's the other guy's name?
Blue Marble Science.
Blue marble science. It's
He'll
not
wait
me,
blue
it's
balls.
them guys. They're the ones that have to work this out. They're the ones that seem to believe that we live on a magic spinning cartoon ball floating in vacuum of something that is a violation of second law of thermodynamics.
Indeed, and I'm going to start grouping them. So, we've got a few people like Blue Marble Science and Simon Dan who say there's only one reference frame. Here's an example of something not drifting. You and your reference frames, they are not, Simon Dan. In this example, they're Blue Marble Science's single reference frame, no drift like your trampoline example. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I've recently been posted a nice little citation from Penn State that makes it explicitly clear that the claim is Earth turns beneath stuff. So, we've got a big problem.
Read it.
Pardon? Read it.
You said you had a... Oh, I'm sorry,
You know
I thought
that
I
there's no-
misunderstood what you said.
That's all right, I can dig it out.
Hold on, you know there's no 15 degree an hour drift on a pendulum.
Exactly, Neil. There's a problem, right? Contradicting point of view that we need squaring. So, one reference frame, Blue Marble Science, and Simon Dan, and a few others who will get added to the list as time goes by, versus Neil deGrasse Tyson and the globe rhetoric that Earth turns beneath stuff. So there's a couple. I'll read out the first one. I'll just read out the choice bits from this Penn State citation that someone posted me like they were having one over me. They trimmed out a bit of my video where I accurately described Coriolis effect as well, so I pinned it. I was like, yeah, wicked. So we'll have a little read of what Penn State have got to say when they said, because he's highlighted this bit, I'll read his highlighted bit. Because this case can be misleading because the, quote, Earth simply rotates underneath the southward moving projectile, end quote, making it appear to the observer at the North Pole that the projectile is deflected right. Okay, so they're making it clear that it's oversimplistic to say Earth simply rotates underneath the moving projectile. That's the first bit. But in quotes, the description is Earth rotates underneath the southward moving projectile. As per Coriolis, so we're all good so far, Penn State. That's in line with NDT saying Earth turns beneath a football. However, for the guy who posted this citation, Blue Marble Science says, quote, the Earth does not turn underneath. That's completely in contrast to what Penn State are saying in that instance. And Penn State's citation also goes on to say, with each passing movement, the northward moving projectile moves over ground that has an eastward speed less than its own. In effect, this is the best bit, the projectile surges east ahead of the lagging ground below. So, two reference frames, according to Penn State, Blue Marble, and I quote, the Earth does not turn underneath. End quote.
That's hilarious.
One reference frame from Blue Marble, two reference frames from Penn State and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Just so we're all clear here, no reference frames from Nathan Oakley, none required. I don't need reference frames.
Excellent. They couldn't help us anymore.
He always touts MIT as having this that they teach at MIT the dielectric acceleration is gravity. Does anyone know if is that a true thing? Is there any kind of documentation that we can find on that, or have you heard Get Beget say that? Anyone? I know you have, Eli.
Dielectric acceleration is gravity. Okay.
Yeah, he says that's what MIT
I don't want to
teaches that.
misrepresent him. I don't want to misrepresent him. I'd rather have him on the show. So
That's not I'm not misrepresenting. I'm quoting him verbatim. But anyway,
he's got explaining to do.
MIT denies Einstein.
It's still going to beg the question of the sky vacuum.
Hold on. Do tell.
doesn't matter. It's been detailed before that there isn't a universal down. There isn't this bias because it doesn't affect gases. Like, I mean, if they're saying something else, they're just going to have to format it in a better way. I really
All
don't
I'm saying
care.
is if there's documentation, speaking on what Get speaks on all the time, I would like to read it. That's all I'm saying.
Go ahead.
And that's what my question was: is there anybody heard? Is anyone familiar with it? Apparently not.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
That does go to my point, though, that describing a phenomenon incorrectly could be one of the reasons you can't get into the scientific method.
And to define the terms, like ether.
So I've just got this
Well,
citation up on
downward-
screen. Just 1 second, just 1 second. So I just want to actually highlight it for the audience. So the projectile appears to swerve to the right relative to the observer. Is this the right page? No, I don't think it is. Sorry. This is blown up because it's very small on the one I've put next to it. The northward moving projectile moves over the ground that has an eastward speed less than its own. In effect, and then I added 2 reference frames, the projectile surges east ahead of the lagging ground below. That's 2 reference frames. Quite a stark contrast to Blue Marble and, I quote, "The Earth does not turn underneath." Very different positions these 2 globe claimants have. I just say again, I don't have reference frames and don't need them. This is not my problem. Shout out to the person who shared that with me, by the way. I liked how you tried to twist this into saying that Blue Marble and NDT have the same position, when they clearly don't. One has 1 reference frame, the other has 2. Yeah, they don't have the same position. Nice to have another reference that says Earth's supposed to be turning underneath stuff, though, from Penn State. Thank you very much. 2 reference frames says Penn State. 1 reference frame says Blue Marble. Fun, fun, fun. Hey, Arwin.
I thought it was the uneven distribution of mass that caused gravity for them.
I don't know about gravity. They just need 2 reference frames to claim Earth turns beneath stuff. And we'd notice that. So when we point out that we don't notice that happening, they say it all rotates together, 1 reference frame, nothing to see here. And we go, yeah, well, that's not what Neil deGrasse Tyson says and Penn State say. Fundy, why is it that you've turned into an anti-flat earther and are now claiming no drift to sea, all turns together 1 reference frame, when Penn State say the ground's going to lag behind, right? Yeah, those 2 things are very different. I mean, I'm claiming neither. We just point out how nothing's drifting, even though the globe's claim is that it does. Not that we shouldn't see anything and we'll just assume it's turning anyway, and gas is bonded to a turning Earth when it's unbonded. That's nonsense, anti-flat earthers like Blue Marble and Simon Dan. You are idiots.
So much
Do they
for
realize it? Do they realize at Penn State that they don't have a radius anymore? I don't think they're up to date with the flat Earth debate.
No, I doubt it. Obviously, we're at the stage where we're getting these fundies to align themselves in terms of what they're actually claiming, because they're so idiotic that they brace against their own claim that they should have 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns beneath stuff in a second reference frame. They want to tell us how nothing's going to drift and it's 1 reference frame, it's all Velcro together even though gas is unbonded. These idiots need to get their circles squared pretty quick.
What happened to straight hurricanes?
Yeah, that's
Hurricane Kosho.
Yeah, that's another anti-flat Earth position when you point out that Coriolis is not actual deflection, therefore has no effect on wind. They assert that, oh, no, it is. It's just me seeing the wind seem to go in a curved path. This hurricane's actually going straight.
That cracked me up when you called him Hurricane Kosho 10. That just got me. Hurricane Kosho.
Well, they find themselves in the real twister of a debate.
Hey. Auntie May. What is her name? In Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz? Auntie May or Auntie May? Auntie May.
Yeah, when they come here, they really put themselves in the eye of the storm.
Ooh.
We interrupt these puns for an introduction to a live show. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Father of a Stolen Child, also known as Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Arwin, Neil, Elijah, did I miss anybody? And a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings all.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
What's up? What's up?
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, welcome one and all. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
The third option. It's the third option, Nathan.
What are the first two options, Arwin?
The Earth rotating underneath everything, and the second option is nothing rotating. Everything moves with it. But there's a third option, apparently. Only nobody actually told me what it is yet.
Anybody know what the official globe option is? Because obviously these are options as opposed to demonstrable effects we can all see happening.
It should be the first one.
What's the first one again?
Earth rotating underneath. And things deviating because of that. Right? That's the official story.
Can you get a bit closer to your? Can you get a bit closer to your mic, Arwin? You weren't here for the pre-show sound check. Just a bit far away, I think.
All right. Is this better? So the official position of the heliocentric narrative is that the Earth rotates underneath the air, because the official globe doesn't disclaim the second law of thermodynamics, or it's the first law of thermodynamics that, like, they don't claim that air can move in lockstep, right? Because it can't, and they don't claim it. They leave that to the anti-flat earthers to claim that. Once it is established that the Earth doesn't actually rotate underneath everything.
Perfect.
Well, you got a problem. You got a problem there because their official stance is the 15-degree movement of the sun, the transit of the sun, is due to Earth rotating, not the sun moving over motionless Earth.
Correct. The official claim is a Coriolis deflection, 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth, causing things in the inertial reference frame to appear to drift because Earth's turning beneath them, exampled by snipers claim to have to track their targets because long-distance shots will have Earth turn beneath the bullet after it leaves the reference frame that's spinning. Therefore, they need to compensate for Earth turning beneath the bullet. Or Neil deGrasse Tyson saying a winning field goal was the direct result of Earth's turning. Now that is a second reference frame turning beneath the ball after it leaves the turning reference frame. That would be Coriolis effect. And I'm sure you've all heard of Coriolis effect because it's usually convoluted into a claim that Earth spins. Now that is a claim that has two reference frames. An inertial reference frame which the projectile will be travelling through, regardless if it's a hot air balloon, a drone, a football, a hot air balloon, doesn't matter. Something that is not attached to a roundabout. And Earth is claimed to be that roundabout. And it is claimed that while you're on that roundabout, you'll see things drift. That's Coriolis effect. You have to be on a roundabout turning beneath things to see the effect. When we point out, as Arwin's just explained, that we don't see that effect, it's left to the anti-flat earthers to tell us that there's only one reference frame, Earth moving with all the atmosphere and no effect to see. Of course, this causes a problem, because flat earthers aren't in any need of flat earth reference frames. So when Simon Dunn tells us you and your reference frames are ruined, no. Neil deGrasse Tyson and his claim of 2 reference frames and drift to observe are ruined when you, Simon Dan, show us an example with 1 reference frame and no drift. Or, and I quote, Earth does not turn underneath, end quote. Blue marble science, 1 reference frame. That's a big problem if you're a globe believer. It's definitely not a problem for us as flat earthers. This is something that the globe believers need to get squared, not us. So, write in the comments below. Not Nathan doesn't understand Coriolis, because that's kind of irrelevant when you've got NDT saying Earth turns beneath a football and Blue Marble saying Earth does not turn underneath. Those 2 things are very different.
Flatsoids video, by the way.
No.
Did you, Nathan? Ooh, it was so good. I already linked it up in the YouTube chat, but it's definitely worth watching. He edited together actual on-screen video clips and sound bites from Neil deGrasse Tyson and Blue Marble Science in the most hilarious fashion.
I have seen his video. I was saying no to somebody else with my mic open. Owen, I'm sorry. Yes, Flatsoid's video I took a chunk of because he went to the trouble of digging out a few quotes from Neil deGrasse Tyson when he's describing with a globe how the ground beneath is a different reference frame. Yeah, he explains it quite clearly. Yeah, Blue Marble Science, not that I watch his crap, and I only come across it because people like Flatsoid publish it, is making it clear that there's no drift to be seen. And where would Tyson say that Earth turns beneath a football? He didn't say that now, did he? Yes, Blue Marble, that is actually the globe claim of Coriolis deflection, and we've got examples where he says it, and shows it, and has a ball turning beneath at different rates. I've even been sent quotes from Penn State that make it explicitly clear that the globe claims 2 reference frames. That would be the projectile surges east ahead of the lagging ground below. That's Penn State saying 2 reference frames in line with NDT and very much not in line with Blue Marble Science's 1 reference frame, end quote. No, Blue. No, you're just wrong and don't understand the globe claim of 2 reference frames made explicitly clear by Penn State and Neil deGrasse Tyson now. You seem to think that it's me that doesn't understand when it's Neil deGrasse Tyson asserting Earth turns beneath a football. And you're telling me he never said Earth turns beneath a football? Yes, he did. You're just wrong. We just point out that doesn't happen when Neil deGrasse claims it, and you have to justify why it doesn't happen by telling us 1 reference frame. Right? Well, we know this problem very well. And now it's not our problem anymore. Now it's Blue Marble versus NDT when he says, you think Earth should turn beneath? Yeah, NDT does think Earth should turn beneath Blue Marble. Me, I don't think that. So this isn't capable of being repositioned into an argument you need to shout at me about. I'll just laugh as you tell Neil deGrasse Tyson that Earth doesn't turn beneath to give him 15 degrees an hour drift in the form of Coriolis effect, something that's supposed to be proving Earth spins. And you're telling him, quote, Earth is not turning underneath, end quote, Blue Marble Science. How beautifully epic.
The situation between them is spinning out of control.
Between them, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Blue Marble, yeah, definitely not my problem or your problem though, eh, Arwin?
Well, in the absence
Indeed,
of
it's just very amusing to behold.
in the absence of Coriolis, Earth-based Coriolis, both positions are wrong.
Oh, absolutely. But we need them to commit to one of them. When we say both globe positions are wrong, we've got 2 globe positions. Notice that's not a flat Earth position and a globe position for you to start asking me about my understanding of Coriolis effect. We need to start asking Blue Marble about his understanding of Coriolis effect, given he's only got 1 reference frame. And when I point that out, he asks me if I understand what reference frames are, like I need to claim them. No, you need to go and ask Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he says you've got 2 of them. And you've only got 1, haven't you, Blue? You on the globe with 1 reference frame, and you on the globe with 2, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Comprende? Not my problem.
Yeah, we got a problem, Houston. Neil says the football drifted, but the Goodyear blimp filming the game didn't. So he's got a problem.
Neil, can you shut up and stop interrupting everything? What is it with you in this football?
That was me.
I thought you were saying that Neil was interrupting again.
No, Neil deGrasse.
Oh, you need to be.
we gotta
be more clear.
Change his name to NDT like you do, Nathan.
NDT says the football drifts, but then we say, how come the Goodyear blimp didn't drift, which was filming the game? So he's got a problem there. Blue Marble says nothing drifts. So we got a problem there. Not we, but the ballers and the anti-flat earthers.
Yeah, exactly. Simon Dan, you have a big problem. You've sent me a video that shows an example with one reference frame and a man not drifting. Neil deGrasse Tyson says Earth has 2 reference frames and will turn beneath footballs. So you, like Blue Marble Science, seem to think that me and my reference frames, what the 2 that Neil deGrasse Tyson uses, are ruined. Well, I don't need reference frames. But who does? Oh yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson needs reference frames, 2 of them, to assert that Earth turns beneath a football. But yet you want to show me examples of men not drifting, Dan? Seems like you're on the same stupid side as Blue Marble Science now, aren't you, Dan? Telling me, the flat earther, that why would I expect to see you drift? I wouldn't. I'm not making that claim, but your own side is. So, Simon Dan, given that was addressed to me, I think you got the address wrong on your tweet. It should have been addressed to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, shouldn't it, Dan? You should have been telling deGrasse Tyson that, like we tell him, by the way, there's no drift to see, Tyson. Here's an example of a man not drifting, Tyson. What do you mean you think Earth should turn underneath, Tyson? It doesn't. Duh. That's what you need to get on, Blue Marble and Neil and Simon Dan. You need to get on the case. You know, we're in line with you boys. No drift to see, Mr. Tyson says all the flat earthers and all the anti-flat earthers. Everyone in the flat earth debate says no drift, Tyson. So, something's got to give here, right? It's not going to be me.
I disagree with 10th, though. He said it's not our problem. It is our problem because we got to keep re-explaining and re-explaining and re-breaking down and over the same nonsense over and over again. By the way, I hope you trimmed out Akuma Virus yesterday, agreeing that the Earth is flat.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. I told you in the pre-show I got a right earful off my wife for that.
Got to do it on a sneak.
Yeah, I might as well tell the live audience. So in the pre-show I was explaining that during the time my wife does her work, I'm supposed to look after the kids. And by look after the kids, I mean give 100% of my attention to whatever they're doing, not just make sure they've got they're occupied and I can then sneak off and edit a video, which is what I did. So I got right earful today. Anyway, and when I told everyone on the panel in the pre-show, it was met with silence, and I'm like, oh, obviously no one can relate to this. And then one by one, everyone was like, yeah, me too. I've been getting told off.
Yeah, I disagree with Neil. I think we address their problem because it's not our problem.
How many times are we going to do it, though?
Until they catch our drift.
Daily, 2 p.m. UK time. Be here or be
Catch our
sphere.
drift.
Yeah,
But the
we'll do it
problem is
daily.
we don't have any drift.
That's right. Just to answer your question, though, we do it daily, and while a regular anti-flat Earth audience member might say, hey, it's just the same thing again. Yeah, unfortunately, 99% of the Western world still think they're on a sphere, and when we point out that you can't triangulate your position if you're on a sphere, it doesn't work, or we point out that you haven't got a geometric horizon, or we point out that there isn't any drift, suddenly we're met with these crazy arguments from what are now described as anti-flat earthers, where they tell us positions that don't actually help a globe proof actually ever manifest. So, for example, you won't see any drift. So we won't see the 15 degrees an hour drift we've got claimed to prove we spin then. Oh, welcome to stationary Earth. No, you don't understand. I assume it spins and the air spins with it in violation of the first law of thermodynamics. Didn't you know that? Because if you didn't, I'll go after your job. And you go, whoa, this is a crazy arena to be debating in now, isn't it? Or when you point out that you need a geometric tangent point horizon for the maths that asserts geometry, they tell us the geometric horizon only exists in the maths, we wouldn't expect to see it. You go, you're telling me the horizon's not Earth curve, we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve, a geometric horizon. And they tell us, yeah, you wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. The Earth curve's not the horizon. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. That's literally what we get told as flat earthers by anti-flat earthers, who have obviously realised that we've overcome all the actual globe arguments, and now all there's left to do is argue amongst us about how wrong the globe is. Because, to add to that, we've got Blue Marble telling the globe believers that there's only one reference frame and no drift to observe. I mean, we'll all unite eventually. Obviously, the Earth is flat, so they're gonna be on our side eventually. They already are, even though they don't appreciate it. But they're telling their own priests how wrong they are. Blue Marble's telling Neil deGrasse Tyson you're wrong. No drift. Duh, Earth not turning beneath. Neil deGrasse Tyson being the person being addressed by Blue. Not me. Fun times, though, if you're a flat earther. We'll do it daily. And now a shout out to our sponsors, which is every single person watching, because this channel's miles too small to actually sustain an income from. So all of the people who support me, and I say this in the chats, I am so grateful, because if you didn't, I wouldn't be doing this daily and pointing out how obviously, observably and navigatably, measurably flat the world is. So thank you to all of the sponsors of the show. Hit the PayPal link in Super Chat.
Isn't their argument that the sun is moving is caused by Earth rotation? So they actually are saying there is drift at the same time?
Yeah, sun rotation is the same exact claim. It's Coriolis deviation, the apparent deflection of the sun as a result of you turning beneath it. That's literally Coriolis effect. Looking at something that isn't actually moving only appears to move because you are moving beneath it. Did a few shorts on this, including reading out the GIF in Wikipedia where there's 2 or 3 sentences that describe the not actual deflection of something that travels in a straight line but only appears to curve because you're turning beneath it. I read out exactly word for word and did it as a 30-second short with the GIF on screen so you can see what the red dot, claimed to be you observing something seem to drift, would see from both reference frames, one where the ball actually has a straight path because that's what it's actually doing, and the other where it appears to curve because you're on a roundabout turning beneath it. Like you being on a turning Earth, turning beneath a bullet, and having to fix that because it causes a problem. Or a ball curving through the goal because Earth turned beneath it, moving the goalposts. Yeah, that's Earth turning beneath second reference frame as claimed by the globe. Definitely not Earth's only got one reference frame. Everything moves together. There's no drift to see, you idiot. The idiot being Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says there is 2 reference frames and drift to observe. Substantially so. I can't quote him verbatim, but he says there'll be a substantial effect depending on how long it is in the air. There's a quote for Blue Marble Science. Oh, he doesn't claim Earth's turning beneath. Oh, right. He says there's a substantial effect depending on how long it's in the air, my friend. So, yeah, he definitely says 2 reference frames. And how long it's up there is going to change the effect. Precisely our argument, I might add, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Because hot air balloons are in the air for a significantly longer period than bullets and balls. So you definitely see the effect in them, wouldn't you? Significantly. End quote. We move on? Any more on axial rotation and the humiliation that the globe marble and NDT argument has descended into for them? Yeah, Nathan, we're really keen.
Yeah, unless someone in Discord who's either a baller or an anti-flat earther wants to ask a question, I think we should move on because I think the whole thing is preposterous.
Anybody from Discord want to continue this discussion as it's very of the moment in regards to the 1 reference frame that Blue Marble and Simon Dan have and the 2 reference frames that has been shown on screen by Penn State. Quote, although this is describing how it's oversimplistic to say Earth simply rotates underneath, that is absolutely what Penn State are saying because they specifically say, in effect, the projectile surges east ahead of the lagging ground below. So Penn State have got 2 reference frames with Earth turning beneath, and Blue Marble says 1 reference frame. Earth doesn't turn underneath, end quote, Blue Marble. So this is a big, big, big problem for you if you're a fundy and a globe believer, because your side has two positions simultaneously held, one that has drift, 2 reference frames, and one that doesn't, 1 reference frame. Blue marble has 1, no drift, 2C, and blue and NDT has 2, drift, 2C, Earth turns underneath. Big problem for you fundies. Anybody on the Discord server want to address that in any way? If not, we're going to move on. I'll take that as a no. Shout out to Mike.
Hang on, Nathan.
Go on.
Hang on, Nathan. Just give it another couple of seconds of silence. No one is standing up for the official globe model.
Or the unofficial flat Earth, anti-flat Earth, no drift model either.
Come on. Stand up. No one?
Shout out to Mike808 for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed. He gives me a sheep jumping up and down in a kind of moon-like manner. Weird. Brilliant super sticker. Thank you very much indeed. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Well, if they're not going to stand up for rotation of the Earth to have Earth-based Coriolis, what makes you think anyone's going to stand up for this one? Who would ever think a ball should have a curve? God forbid.
Who indeed? The horizon is not Earth curve. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is physical and geometric. If you're a globe believer, your horizon is Earth curve, and we have debunked the horizon as a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as Earth curve. The horizon is not Earth curve.
Well, the ballers can't even get to the point where they start to recognize within geometry that spheres have an edge, right? They'll go into a debate about that and how that's wrong. So how are they going to be made to understand the in-world geometrical consequences of their claim of ball Earth?
Yeah, I have a standardised reply in the chat. If you've got children watching, cover their ears. So I say, the edge of my balls can block the view of my feet, but the horizon being a sphere edge to block boats and buildings was debunked by the black swan. You can uncover their ears now.
Yeah, man, the ballers, they lost their edge in the argument. They really
certainly did.
lose.
I had to interrupt a great string of puns to do the intro. I'd already run over by 1 minute before starting the live show, and I was like, too many good puns coming. Spinning out of control? No, I thought that would spark off those puns to reoccur, but clearly not.
Spinning out of control, losing their edge, losing their marbles. Yeah, it all applies.
Yeah, Eli said they won't come on the show because they don't want to risk being in the eye of the storm.
Their arguments are swirling down the drain.
Yes, but he said it so calm, like he was getting ready to present another claim.
Well, according to Kosho, the
calm
eye
before
of
the storm.
The eye of the storm, according to Kosho, would be a tangent point on a straight line. Figure that one out.
Yeah, he says the winds go straight.
Hurricane Kosho.
Yeah, so after being pointed out that Coriolis is only a not actual deflection, apparent meaning appearing but not actual, not really curving, he said, yeah, hurricanes are moving in a straight line. It's because we're turning beneath them that they look like they're turning. It's like, really? Your so-called satellite images from a sky vacuum depict them as actually turning, like with an actual spin direction, not a deflection that we see because we're turning beneath them on a roundabout. Not seeming to curve, they're actually curving. That's definitely not Coriolis effect. Coriolis is a not actual deflection, only capable of being caused if you turn beneath things. And of course, once he realised that, oh well, hurricanes move straight, don't they? For this to make sense for me on a globe.
So Nathan, given the geometric limitation of their sphere model based on 3959 at a 1 foot observer height, it should be at no more than 1.22 miles out. For all these years, they've been saying the reason the bottom of boats and buildings disappears due to the curvature of the Earth. Now they're saying, no, we're wrong because of the geometric limitations. We can never see the geometric physical horizon. So they're left to perspective. And they even gloat that it's perspective now, but still hold on to a shape that's not there, i.e. the globe.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yes, supposedly dielectric acceleration is now gravity.
That's not the official claim, though.
That's what I heard in a pre-show.
From who? Where is that officially claimed? I mean, I'm pretty sure that gravity is still in the process of being discovered, as it were, because they don't exactly know what it is yet. Besides being a conceptual medium-based thing of space-time bending.
They don't know what watt is. It is a nothing. There's no such thing as what they call gravity.
Okay then. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
It depends what you identify what the hypothesis is.
Well, don't most of these theories actually utilize gravity in one way or the other?
Hypothesis is the supposition of cause of a naturally occurring phenomena, yet to be validated.
Okay, so they see something in the sky, in the night sky. There's your phenomenon. Now, how are they going to validate it in the scientific method? What can they do? What can't they do at this point?
Well, what they must do if they're following the scientific method is suppose a cause and vary that presumed cause to see if it causes the effect they're studying.
So they need to put their hands on what they think the cause is and change it up a bit. So that would be light in the sky.
I'm not supposing the cause for them. The effect I'll talk about all day because we can detail the effects, right?
Well, the DV, the IV,
What if they're
and the
just
CV.
asking
So
a what is question?
Can you repeat that for 10th benefit?
What if they're just asking a what is question about what the stars are?
Then it's not open to inquiry by way of scientific methodology because it's not got an observed phenomena to study. You need an effect, something occurring. If you're studying a concrete noun, it's not why is a tree is a concrete noun. It's why does the leaf fall off the tree? That's an occurrence, a phenomena that you can study and suppose the cause of. So it's outside scientific method if there's just a concrete noun being asked a question about.
Yeah. So how do they go about answering what is a star? They can't use any scientific method for that.
Well, but they can apply a lot of peer review storytelling, though. Stories agreed upon.
Observation and declaration.
Right, a couple of shout outs. So shout out to Godzilla37. This one's titled How to Trigger Ballers for Less Than $5 US. Thanks for the super chat. Also, Mike808, thank you very much again for the super chat or super sticker with hippos coming up from beneath the water. Really appreciate it. What should I call this show?
Too early to tell. You've covered reference frames, Coriolis.
Yeah, those are the things we've talked about, but how do you meld that into...
Hurricane Kosho.
NDT versus Blue Marble. We've covered a bunch.
Done that already loads. Hurricane Kosho it is.
Hurricane Kosho.
Yeah, but all the stuff that I'm seeing on YouTube from these people about black holes and all these things that they would have had to have done the scientific method to even know the cause. But they're saying everything without doing the scientific method, nor can they even attempt to do it, because how are they going to get out there, which is not even there because outer space is fake? I mean, they just die at every turn.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. Oh, if you want an alternative title, or you could use another day, you could also call it Baller Claims Spinning Out of Control or something.
I don't know the distance to the sun, but I do know their claim is that it's vast distance away so that light comes in parallel. But what we see with our eyes, and is beyond reproach, is that light comes in at funny angles, divergent rays. So one thing for sure, it's not far, far away like they say.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You would need R for that.
Oh, come on, Discord. There's usually so many takers for this question. Molten iron core? Nobody tempted? No?
Yeah, I don't even
Who
see any
came up
chat
with the-
skanks out here.
You got what out well? Sorry, Stag?
I said I don't even see any chat skanks in the chat. It's pretty quiet.
Oh, you're the
no.
good fisherman.
No chat skanks. Yeah, keep it up.
Oh, that was you calling me out yesterday, Neil? I thought it was you. I didn't want to presume though. Yeah, I did. It was
So-
nothing was happening except for Akumu yesterday, but we got him.
So Stag O'Lee is the fisherman. Okay. Well, drop your line.
He's not the only one, but yeah, for sure. Okay, last but by no means least. Go
I
on.
got an detailed response. The molten iron core. I wanted to ask. I don't know if I asked it before, but who actually came up with that? That there was supposed. Who first started to break that story about the molten iron core?
I think it was Ian. Was it Ian? I'm pretty sure it was Ian.
I thought it was Aunt Thea.
What? Which Ian?
I don't know. I just made it up.
Okay. So it's not like. What was the first time it was found to be written down and signed by somebody? Like in books, in an encyclopedia. Who
Gotcha.
came up with it?
Anybody know when the molten iron core postulation was first documented? Anybody have the answer to that? Talking to the audience as well. If you want to drop it in chat, if somebody knows in chat, drop it as a comment or drop it in the live stream now if you know on the spot. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know who came up with that garbage.
I said it was Aunt Thea reading a bedtime story.
So Aunt Thea is the planet that's claimed to have smashed in at a glancing blow to the fledgling Earth, depositing its molten iron core and its debris coalescing through bending space-time into the moon. That's the story of Thea.
And I'm pretty sure that story came much, much later. That's
Maybe.
like the how did it come into being, right? But who came up with like, yeah, there's all molten iron in the middle of this ball? Who first said that? Officially.
Ian, wasn't it?
Turns out there's a magic speed that caused it.
No doubt. Every time something absolutely ridiculous happens, it's always a magic speed, but
Oh, I thought you said it was always Ian.
I know people that are called Ian. It's really weird when you say that.
I know people too.
It's like, which Ian?
Let's move on. This is the longest we've had on the molten iron core for about a week or two. Any evidence you can have gas pressure, that's the stuff we're breathing, without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon. Hello? Any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
Well, you require at least 2 containers for that in order to simulate a scenario as if there were no containers. But literally without a container is not possible to demonstrate in our current setup.
What are you trying to say? Are you saying I should add that to the question? Any evidence of gas pressure without a container, but, you know, if you need 2 containers to demonstrate gas pressure without a container, that's cool. That's okay.
Right.
No, not right. What do you mean, right?
It still wouldn't work, though, you know?
Wasn't there in the...
Sorry, just one sec, Tim. Just one sec. Actually, Arwin, I want to commend you on that, because that you made, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before yesterday or whenever it was, you made a bloody good point in that regard, which is to say that it is unachievable to assert that you can ever demonstrate gas pressure without a container, because every single attempt to example it will start with you in a contained system. Nature abhors a vacuum, so you can't have gas pressure without a container, and all examples will start with you in containment.
Indeed.
Can you mute, please, Tenth? You're causing a bit of chaos.
Well, the other day on 24/7, they were talking about atmospheric pressure is different than gas pressure. So how do you like that?
Well, atmo means air, and sphere is a fundamentalist religious presupposition that everything's sphere-shaped. So atmo, air, isn't sphere-shaped. That's an oxymoron. Air takes the shape of its container. It doesn't arbitrarily form the shape of a sphere to get around a second law of thermodynamics sky vacuum with air not expanding into it. Air is definitely not sphere-shaped. Oxymoron.
They said gravity, because of gravity, that's why raindrops are spherical.
Well, what about the gas that expanded up into the heavens in order to then later fall down with its disequilibrium after a phase change? The gas expanded in all directions to achieve that. So gravity, which is not a force, in no way has effect on all of, say, mass as they describe it, because steam has mass. It's going up, not down, go boom boom. And the rebuttal to that, well, all the gas around it's going down, go boom boom. No, it's not. Anisotropic, inhomogeneous gases expand to fill the volume of space they have to fill.
I was going to say, Nathan, wasn't there a guy who put up a 20-foot pipe on the side of his house with an open top and claimed something?
Yeah, the guy with 2 containers. The guy who brought in a container of butane and then transferred it into a pipe. A second container with an opening in it. A leaky container.
Is that the best they can? Is that the best they can do?
It's the best Arwin could do. That was Arwin's answer to it 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, you can't escape the container. Like, you're in a container. You're always in a container, so...
Look, you don't want to trigger everyone, Arwin. That was a bad turn of phrase. Don't say you can't escape the container. You're going to have panic on your hands.
Well, prove me wrong. Well, no, don't.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that we're dealing with very temperamental people here. Yeah? Now, they like to believe that there's an ever-expanding soup of nothingness, making their lives kind of unimportant and insignificant because they're a speck of dust on a speck of dust. Now, when you juxtapose that with, you can't escape the container, that's going to have some profound effects on some people who are watching. I'm just letting you know.
Well, Brian's logic said the other day that you can't have temperature without a container, you can't have pressure without a container, you can't have a vacuum without a container. So what's left?
Can't have anything without a container. We need containment to be breathing. End of story, game over.
I mean, you can have concepts without containment. You don't need containment for love.
Yeah, you do. Because in order to experience love, you require a consciousness that has to be seated on life, which is dependent on the stability of natural elements, including gas pressure, which require containment.
Okay, give me, let's see, 100 milliliters of love, please.
I'm not gonna like quantitate it for you. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure that very indirectly, love still requires containment because you have to be alive.
Okay, what about freedom? Okay, what about freedom? I'll have half a gallon of it.
No, not gonna quantitate that either. But if it is something that is derived from the experience of being alive, then that kind of indirectly means it requires containment.
No, subjectively, I could describe freedom, write it down, die, and then have the description still be accurate to anybody who reads it. That's why I picked it. No containment needed for concepts. I'm just being facetious, Arwin. We don't have to drag this out.
So was I. So.
Are you really free if you're in the container?
What is freedom? Let's not get into this, eh? It's not the right platform for that. Go to a political forum. Go somewhere else. Freedom.
You always have freedom, even in a containment. Right? You can, if you're contained physically, then you might find freedom mentally. And hey, if you are contained mentally, then a whole bunch of people will try to escape physically. Right?
Find it.
So,
there you go with those conceptual words being reified. Where do I find it? Have you got a map?
I was being philosophical, not natural science.
You said find it.
Find the freedom, experience the freedom, find the release of the apparent non-freedom, of the entanglement that makes you experience not being free.
You just don't concede, Arwin. Regardless of how bizarre or nonsensical the concept you're describing is, you're one of them in that regard. Stubborn baller.
Yeah, but I kind of did concede by saying that I'm not referring to natural sciences, though. So.
Oh, great weasel words. Discord's very quiet today. Are you all
mean
still there?
accurate?
You all still there? Just so I can cut this conversation out quickly. Yeah, we're all having loads of fun in the Discord. Yeah, we're loving it here. Oh, that's good to know. I mean, I'm really
we're
proud
still
of
here.
A lot of quiet souls. Room full of people.
They're grieving.
I don't know.
They're not even. Yeah, they're not even writing. The chat skank says they're called aren't even writing anymore. They're just grieving.
But are they grieving or are they just bathing into the sun of knowledge?
Well, that's the perfect segue for me to actually ask. So maybe we can have an update on the chat skanks from Stagoli.
Maybe they're taking a strike because they haven't been paid enough to deal with our BS.
Do you not think
we had to make concessions last night from Akumo Virus anyway?
Oh, what about him telling us how flat it must be to utilize areas of equal altitude with triangulation? Yeah, that was very useful. That was what I got an earful for. That's what will be out soon on the next edited video.
Yeah, he explained how he understood it.
Yeah, explained how
right
he
there
knew.
With us.
Yeah, he agreed. Very useful it was for me editing it too.
Well, based on a figure from an article I sent him, he had said, well, you have like this cone and, you know, equidistant from the center of the earth, it's of equal altitude.
Oh, please. He's assuming a sphere.
Doesn't matter if it's a 3,000 mile distance or 6,000 mile distance. That equal altitude from anywhere on the circle needs a right angle triangle. So it has to be flat base. So how does that work over 6,000 miles? If in the middle is the GP of the sun, and from any part of the circle, you're 3,000 miles away from it, but then the guy on the other side of the circle directly in line with you is also 3,000 miles away from it. That's 6,000 miles of flat.
Yeah. Do you want to say
The main
that
part
again?
of all of that,
Hold on.
let me just say one thing. The main part of all of that was he was explained that it could not work on a flat Earth. I mean, it could not work on a sphere because it would drop away. You would not get the measurements you need. And he agreed.
Yeah, I was going to get 10th to repeat. Area of equal altitude for triangulation can only be performed if it's flat.
Yeah. Circle of equal altitude is used in navigation where the GP of the celestial body is over a certain part of the Earth. And in relationship to that GP is your position. So it's a circle of equal altitude. So anywhere on that circle, everyone is the same degree distance away from the GP of the sun, for example. So if you shoot the star, the sun, and you get a 50-degree angle to it, and you go to the books, and it says the sun today is right over here, it's zenith. And of course, you have to note the date and the time so that you can reference it in the Nautical Almanac. And then you position yourself, and you say, oh, I'm somewhere on the circle, the sun's in the middle, and the distance is 3,000 miles. A guy on the other side of the circle, directly across from you, is also 3,000 miles from the GP of the sun. 3,000 and 3,000 is 6,000 miles of flat. Well, we're supposed to have 8 inches per mile square drop. How does that work? You need a right-angle triangle to do celestial navigation to get the GP of the sun.
You don't, in answer to your question. It has to be flat in order for triangulation to function. In other words, if you're going to triangulate the GP, which is the position below whatever star you're utilising, in this case you use the sun, and that's what's on this diagram I've got up, which is provided by 10th Man very courteously, then you've got to have a flat bottom to the triangle. Now you get your 0 line before you point your sextant or theodolite or whatever star you're targeting to get whatever position is directly below it on the ground. Well, you line up your sextant to the horizon, that gives you 0, roughly, which is all you need. And then out from that, you're going to draw 3 positions with circles all around them that are described, accurately so, as areas of equal altitude. They can't not be, because it would put you in a varying position in 3-dimensional space if each of these circles were dropping away from the fix, which is where you're trying to triangulate yourself to. You look at this star, you draw a line out to its position, you get an angle to it with your theodolite, and then you do it twice more, and that gives you a position on an area of equal altitude. That would be a massive area that is all flat.
So if it wasn't, you would not be able to get your measurements correct. Am I right?
It wouldn't work if every single measurement was taken from a position that was dropping away from yourself. You couldn't do it. It wouldn't succeed.
There's a comment in chat by Level Guy. The sextant only measures the distance to the horizon. Every degree represents 69 miles, he says. Well, it uses the horizon, but its distance is beyond your eyesight. So how in the world do you see 3,000 miles away from your boat? You don't. You use the angle of the luminary in the sky, and you know by the books the exact position over the Earth at that moment that you observe it, and you note down the degrees and the time you took. And when you reference it, it says it's 3,000 miles away, but you need the horizon as the 0 baseline to even start the process. The index arm of the sextant has a mirror that moves and moves the sun or the star up and down. The horizon mirror is fixed on the sextant. You need a horizontal, a plane, a straight, a 0 base, or you can't get your angle for that right angle triangle to occur. So just because you're limited in your eye to the horizon you see, that doesn't mean it doesn't continue for another 2,900 miles or 2,900 and whatever miles past what you're able to see.
Yep. And something that was difficult to drum into a Cumvirus's mind was that you need a 90 degree in order to do this triangulation. So the angle from you to the star is going to be met at its geographical position. That would be the zenith of the star, if you want to look at it in that way, with a 90 degree at that. It is GP, isn't it? I am getting the terminology correct, aren't I?
Yeah, the GP of this. You have a GP where you are directly over the Earth somewhere, and the star has a GP where it's directly over the Earth somewhere.
Okay, so this is the star, and this is the GP. Now, you're going to be here, measuring with a theodolite, out to the horizon, which might be here in Muppet Vision. That's the limitation of your view, because the star might be thousands of miles away in terms of its geographical position below, with a 90 degree angle to your position. That's you pointing at the horizon. All you take into account is the dip, which is how high above the water or whatever it is you're looking at you are. But beyond that, you're utilising that horizon as a straight line, so you can get 90 degrees to the star with the angle your theodolite gives you. That's how triangulation works. You do that 3 times, you get a fix. You know where you are.
Yeah, notice the image of what a 90 degree is. To have that little square box, it's the only time they ever use it for an angle. What's that bottom line? Does that look curved to anyone? You need a perpendicular for a 90 degree, 2 straight lines to have that box. You can't tell me that you're shooting a star in the sky at a certain angle and the books tell you it's 3,000 miles away and change that bottom line to a curved line and try to achieve triangulation with a curved line. No one could ever get an angle with 2 straight lines meeting at a corner, creating a vertex. Angles are impossible. Oh, did I fail to mention sextant is a tool that derives angles between 2 objects? So the tool is for angles. And if you can't get angles without 2 straight lines meeting at a corner, a vertex, how in the world are you getting it then? Certainly not on the curved surface.
Well, we don't got the 2021 angle, the curved angle. That level is curved, so can angles be curved now? It's 2021.
Have they resorted to that, Chocolate, where straight is curved and curved is straight and words have no meaning anymore?
Right,
Oh,
so
yeah. They've said all those things.
We've got types of angle. I don't know who posted this in Masterpiece, but thank you whoever did it. But each of these angles represented, with the exception of what could be described as a complete angle, that would be a zenith in our descriptions, right? Well, each of these lines along the bottom, sorry, there's a window cleaner outside my window, aren't curved. And for them to generate what is known as an angle, they are straight lines. Doesn't matter which way they're pointing. But if you're trying to get an angle to a star from your position, and you're going to try and calculate with a 90 degree angle the GP of that star, the line along the bottom must be straight to get the angle. Not a curved line. None of them are curved regardless of the angle being measured. They've all got a flat bottom. And when you perform triangulation, you're not just going to be assuming it, you're going to be measuring a flat plane to get your position. And if you weren't, you wouldn't get it.
No 8-inch per mile squared. That's why y'all scared to have this become mainstream. So as a result, we've transformed into nightmares, waking folks from the daydream. Word up.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was
That's
good.
a wrap. That's a wrap, Chocolate.
True. That's why they're not here, right? Because we've transformed into nightmares, waking folks from this daydream that they're in. That's why it's so quiet. Have they figured out? I know you're about to run out the show, but did they figure out if there's drift or no drift? Or? Did I miss that?
Let's get ready to rumble! In the blue shorts, we have blue marble science with 1 reference frame. Ding, 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 ding. And in the red corner, we have Neil deGrasse Tyson with 2 reference frames. Who will win this bout? Only one man can leave the cage.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man.
You tell me. Who's your money on? Neil deGrasse Tyson with his 2 reference frames, or is your money on Blue Marble with his single reference frame? This is a fight flat earthers have no horse in. That was a bit of a
Sounds
dodgy...
like they've ruined their own reference frames, Nathan.
They certainly seem to have, because Simon Dan's on Blue Marble science, going around showing people examples with no drift and telling people that their reference frames are ruined. Bearing in mind, we as flat earthers don't have any.
If we don't have any horse in the race, then why are we chomping at the bit?
No, it's horse in this fight. Don't get it mixed up.
Whatever. We're still chomping at the bit.
You said Simon Dan, is this a tag team match now?
No, it's a versus match, not a tag... Oh, I see what you mean, with Blue Marble and Simon Dan. Yeah, tag team. We've got Penn State and NDT and generally everyone who's actually got the globe rhetoric correct, saying there's 2 reference frames, 15 degrees an hour drift. Some of the globe anti-flat earthers do understand this because they go around thanking Bob and saying specifically 15 degrees an hour drift. So some of them get it. Others, like Simon Dan and Blue Marble, say no drift, 1 reference frame, nothing to see, no effect to observe. Why would you, that'd be Neil deGrasse Tyson, expect Earth to turn underneath? And I quote, Earth does not turn underneath, end quote, Blue Marble, 1 reference frame. Who'll win this fight between NDT and Blue Marble? Only you can tell.
It'd be interesting if NDT wins, because he'll have that mic drop moment and call the other side the B word.
Yeah, if NDT wins, he'll be calling Blue Marble his bitch. We'll swoop in at that particular time and say, hey, NDT, if Earth turns underneath a football, then it'd also turn underneath aeroplanes and drones and bullets and air balloons and you if you jumped up and down. And we don't observe that effect. We'd shorten flight times as well. If you had a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles and Earth was turning beneath it, it'd get there in an hour and a half. But it takes 4.5 hours because Earth's definitely not rotating underneath anything, Mr. Tyson. What kind of stupidity is this? You think Earth turns underneath? Not even the anti-flat earthers think that. We've got Blue Marble on our side, Mr. Tyson. He makes it clear, quote, Earth does not turn underneath, end quote, Blue Marble. So Earth's not turning underneath Blue Marble. No, that's right, Neil deGrasse Tyson. You need correcting by your own side of anti-flat earthers who say no drift.
Please, let's get it right. He said, Nathan, we're not on a roundabout.
No, we certainly are not. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, became a member, and all that good stuff. Also, of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panel for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
That's a good line, Chocolate.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Very good.
Yeah, it was perfect. If it was like 2 or 3 minutes later, I'd have rounded out the show with that.
Yeah, late. 15 minutes late.
I
No,
tried to help you there, Nathan. I said, that's a wrap. You should have, that was your cue.
2:45.
With 4 minutes left to go on the live show. No.
You've done it before. You've done it in 1 or 2 minutes.
You have done it before, though. Like 2-3 minutes early, you're like, it's cut.
No, people get snippy with me.
Center, you know?
If I round out the live show early, if they lose 2 minutes, I get nagged. And I'm not even joking. People moan if I round out the live show early.
That's just Neil.
That's 2-3 minutes of goodness people could miss. Yeah, I don't blame them.
By the way, with the show me, what'd you ask for? How much love did you ask for from Arwen?
100 milliliters.
Okay, there's something going on because my wife has got on me about the show too. So something's happening in the air.
What? We're all henpecked.
What?
Well, if it's in the
She
air.
never said anything about the show. Now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, your love of your life show is on, and nasty remarks like that.
If it's in the air, don't worry, Neil. He'll drift away.
It'll diffuse with entropy. That's right.
So I said to myself, you know what? No, I'm not going to go on the show for a week, and let me see what she says then. But I couldn't do it.
Neil, that's just a cue. Take me out to dinner. Pay some attention to me. That's all.
My wife wants to do something all the time.
Okay.
I like to just chill and relax a lot. I do what I got to do, but there's certain time when, hey, let's just chill. 7 days a week.
I don't really understand what that means. I remember wanting to be a YouTuber so I could be time rich and kind of not cash poor. Obviously no one wants that, but knowing that I'd be cash poor. Now what I got was kind of cash poor and time poor. That's what I got. So I don't get that time to just do your relaxing thing. Like I say, I'm being nagged at because I'm trying to. During the live show I did the thumbnail.
There you go.
There's no extra time to do the thumbnail. I don't have it. So therefore I'd now do it. I incorporate it into the time I'm sat doing the live show, which is bad. And like I said in the pre-show, I'm trying to do a bit of editing when I should be looking after the kids because there isn't enough time. So in that particular regime where I'm up at 7 o'clock and then finishing at about 1 to 3 in the morning, permanently doing YouTube things, when do you think my chill time is? There isn't any. Not that I'm complaining. I love what I do, and I don't mind it at all. It's a pleasure to do. But I'm just saying, there's no. I'll be that bald eagle and have my private time, and especially with 2 kids.
Hold on, I gotta fix this. My wife, listen. I love you, Sarita. You are the love of my life.
Can I just second that? I also love you, Serena. You are also... No, not that bit.
Just remember
Sarita with a T.
That's what I said, Sarita. I didn't. That's a total lie.
Just remember, Nathan, time's a concept. You're just concept poor.
I'm very grateful. She does tolerate you being on the show, Neil, so, So who else has been getting grief? Anybody in the after show?
Actually, my wife says, how was the show? How did it go? Tell me. She's interested. I get the
my wife's the same. She encourages it now, especially now Love Island's on. Are you going to go and do your flat earth thing? I want to watch Love Island.
Mine occasionally comes out with lines that I know I've said. Normally quite, sweary or overly vulgar. And she'll repeat them back, letting me know that she's been listening to certain parts of it. Or she'll give me a rendition of a globe argument or an anti-flat earth argument or a flat earth argument perfectly. I'm like, well, hello, you've been listening.
Yesterday, I've been getting plagued with loads and loads of cold calls. And yesterday I thought I'd be nice to the guy. instead of just either hanging up or putting the phone. So he's trying to sell me life insurance and all that, and I'm no. And then he says to me at the end, is there anything else? And I said, well, only one thing, mate. He said, what's that? I said, just to tell you that the Earth is flat. And I'm expecting him to hang up there. But we had about a 10-minute conversation yesterday afternoon, chatting, and he seemed quite genuine, asking me, so why is it? How long have you been there? Why do you think they're doing it? So we got into creation and God and all sorts, but he spent a good 10 minutes, and at the end just said, I've got to go because I'm at work, but thanks for that. So I've been looking at this thing and seeing, but don't know any flat earthers to actually speak to, but I've seen it all out there, and I found that really useful, pal. So, yeah, flat smack cold callers.
Epic. Anybody ever want to know the answer to why we are suppressed and why it goes through Congress and why we're considered fringe and why we'll never reach our own search results top thereof? Well, that's why. That man's single sentence, I don't know any flat earthers to ask. Well, typically you just type it into Google and you'd come across somebody who's a subject matter expert in any other particular field in any walk of life ever. For us, you'll find our opponents.
Yeah, totally true.
I can't lie, Adam. I've done the same shit.
I did
It's actually fun. And usually they hang up. Click. I'm like, yes.
He was South African. So what I've also done is I've gave him my perspectives YouTube and also Flatzoid. I says, go listen to those. It'll be soothing African tones for you. So he's, hopefully, well on his way. But he was genuinely interested, and like I say, he even bothered to write and asked me to spell out the spelling of Flatzoid. So,
why would you give him an Indian man's channel? I don't follow.
I was trying to be inclusive.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got nothing against Flatzoid for being Indian. I'm not prejudiced.
Should have gave him Dave Murphy. He would have made him a black Hebrew Israelite.
You know, Dave's from Honolulu, right?
St. Lucia. His mum's from, isn't it? Lucky bugger.
Yeah, Dave's a Brit, in all seriousness.
Yeah, his mum's from there, isn't he? He's from London, isn't he? I mean,
yeah. He was in New York on September 11th.
So was I. 14th and 8th.
The little sod. When I went on the Flat Earth tour, I'm sat there in, I think, is it St. Mark's Square in Venice, looking for, trying to, I've just got off the plane and the train to get to Venice to meet up with a crew. And I'm wandering around and I've got my case, I'm pulling it. And suddenly the next thing I feel is someone grab my case and start running. To turn around and about to smack him, and then he just gives me a big hug. It was Dave. In the middle of the square. But yeah, he's a good man, Neil.
I mean, that is slightly racist. You know, just because he's black doesn't mean you have to punch him.
It did look like...
Never said he wasn't. All I said was the facts. That he's a Jesus hater and white man bad.
I would never
hold on. You do realise that both Dave and... both Adam and I have had very fond interactions with Dave Murphy. You do appreciate we are both white, right?
Oh, fess Christ, and you'll see how it changes.
What?
I have discussed Christ with Dave Murphy. Literally, I have.
Profess Christ.
I sat there at the first FE conference in Birmingham in the wee hours of the morning after we'd finished filming, sat there with Dave, chatting about Jesus and stuff, in the bar.
Neil's got some prejudice against him. I think it's because he's black. Probably, yeah. Go on, bite, Neil. Go on, bite. Go on. He's not biting.
I have no prejudice at all. I'm sweeping right now. I have no prejudice at all. I like Dave. His first video, was great. But then he went off the rails, and he's a black Hebrew Israelite. He's basically a 5%er, which means he believes 5% of the King James Bible. So, you know, he's gone off the rails.
Okay, if you say so. He could say the same about you.
How do you choose which 5% to believe?
There you go.
Easy 5.
There you go.
Whose rails did it come off?
I was going to ask that.
Are there a particular set of rails we need to follow, or
Neil's rigid Christianity rails?
Well, I was going to say, if Paula was here, it'd be a different tale, because Paula would be accurately described as a Bible literalist. And I agree with her in many of the arguments she puts across. If it's going to be allegorical or metaphorical, it states it. And in terms of the supporting evidence for the individuals described in the Bible, there's plenty of evidence for that, more so than most things we actually have to look into. Surprisingly, quite a lot more than most things you look into. So from all of those perspectives, I side with Paula. I'm not even, again, I've not got a horse in that race. I'm not even that interested.
She agrees with me then. She agreed with me.
Paula does, of course, yes.
She did quote Bart Ehrman the other day, though, I did see, so which is a...
Hang her!
A witness. Yeah.
He is a hostile witness.
Yeah. But that was in I think someone was saying there's no historical data for Jesus or evidence. So I think that's why she was quoting Bart there, opposed to his theology.
Well, Bart at least believes Jesus existed. He just doesn't think he was God or the resurrection was real. That's what Bart.
I caught maybe 15 to 20% of that, Paul.
I said Bart Ehrman, or Bart Ehrman, however you say his name, at least believes that Jesus was a historical figure. He just doesn't think that Jesus was God or rose from the dead. That's where.
Might as well just have him not believe then.
He's one of the top. It's not about religion there. He's a historian, and like I say, he's not Christian in that sense. But if you argue with him, if you get some of the mysticists that just believe that it's just a tale, that there is no history, he's the great exponent of demonstrating a historical character.
Yeah, he's demonstrating his historical validity, but where there's outrageous claims, he's not backing them. So, for instance, he's not going to say, yeah, this miracle's true, right?
Probably the opposite. He'd probably put it down to trickery and magic, which I watched a good one on the turning water into wine stuff. So there's 100, 200 years before, there's vessels and stuff that do this. So you pour water in, and then you pour wine out of these magic vessels. So it's quite a common trick in the centuries before Jesus and stuff, a way of impressing your guests. So you'll take things like that and say, was that just put into the gospel because it's a common thing and it shows, it was a common way of someone being famous, popular, or powerful. It was a way of ascribing those qualities to somebody. You could say they could do that. So he does stuff like that, which to me doesn't undermine the gospel. He'll put it into a much stronger historical situation that says, well, these things were real back in the day. They existed. These people, these things, these claims were part of society. And he demonstrates that.
I don't think saying to somebody or a group of people who could hear him, your sins are forgiven, or raising someone from the dead were common things the Jews would put up with because they attribute that only to God. And Jesus claimed to be God in human flesh many times. So outrageous claims from the non-believers, yeah, I could see that. But eyewitness testimony says otherwise.
Well, that's where he would argue, isn't it? Because I think most historians would say it's not eyewitness testimony.
Well, he even says...
From a historical
15...
side, yeah.
Well, he even says, I'm only going to accept 7 writings from Paul. I'm going to discount the rest. And just the 7 he accepts prove everything I just say, prove everything Paul says. And it's really interesting when you go to critical text, how they nitpick on every little thing to discount this book, that book, this chapter, and then they say, these are the only ones we're going to use. And when they limit themselves to just the ones they accept, it still shares the Christian message quite well. So this is where Gary Habershine says, when he went through, they told him, you do know that we don't believe in the Bible at all, blah, 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 as he was going through his education system. And we're going to limit you on what you can use, blah, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, no problem. No problem. Limit me all you want. So what's cool is to go to YouTube and listen to Gary Habershine talk about how they tried to cut the legs off of Christianity through the source material. But even then, with the stuff that they say, okay, we know this is true and this was Paul's writing. Even then, Gary shows that the gospel message is very clear and consistent. So yeah, the world's going to do that. Satan's going to do that because he wants to deny the average human being of the actual claim Jesus made, which is he's the only way to heaven. And you have to be pretty much in tune with God to say that.
Didn't he say the truth was the only way to heaven?
He said, I am the truth, the way, and the life. He said he is the only truth. He is the only way. He is the only life. He came for one mission only. God's love to save the world. What is going to happen when man can be perfected? And Jesus perfects man through his sacrifice. We can't perfect ourselves. We're all sinners. None of us could do enough good to outweigh our bad. It's not based on works. It's based on the grace of God. So if C.S. Lewis, who was a tremendous mind, I love his way of explaining. He's either Lord, liar, or lunatic. I mean, you can have to walk away with one of those. His life doesn't prove he was a liar. His life doesn't prove he was a lunatic. The only thing left was, is he who he claimed to be? Is he the Lord? And that's a decision every one of us has to make on our own. No one could force that on anybody.
Can I have 100 milliliters of the love, please?
I love that. How about some freedom?
Half a gallon.
I'll take a half a gallon freedom. I think there was a gas station called Freedom Gas Stations here. We can go fill up over there.
Fill up on freedom?
Of course. From a gas station.
So tell me how these things happen, right? I'm driving in this neighborhood to do a job that I haven't been in years. And I pass the block where my father was raised with his sister, Blanche. And I was like, wow, my Aunt Blanche, I should go visit her. I just get a phone call from my wife, tells me my Aunt Blanche died yesterday. Strange, right?
She told you that she died yesterday, or she actually died yesterday?
No, she just called me up now and said, did you hear about your Aunt Blanche? I said, no, but I just passed where she was raised with my father. And I said, gee, I should stop by and see her. Why? What's wrong? She said, well, she died in a car accident yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It's just like strange how these things, is that coincidence or I don't know.
Yes, well, by definition, yes, it is coinciding with an event where you passed her house. So, yes. If you want to look at it in a mystical way, you can ask if it's synchronistic as opposed to coincidental. Don't know what I mean by...
You know what's not...
Go on.
You know what's not coincidental is the last 2 years ever since the Black Swan. Notice the show, notice who's on, who's no longer on, notice the chat skanks. Now they weren't even on today. Was this the first time they never were on?
I don't know.
I mean, I couldn't believe it when someone said no one's even writing anything.
Oh, I see. I don't watch that bit of the Discord server ever. I never have.
Yeah, neither do I. But that's the point. Someone does, and they commented today. For the first time, I think I ever heard on your show that no one was typing in chat the opposite viewpoint.
Shout out to all of the Discord moderators. You're all ace.
So I would say they threw in the white flag, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, while the anti-flat earthers might throw in the towel, I've said this loads of times, it might reach the point that it's never reached before, where we go a whole week without a single anti-flat earther coming to tell us that why would you expect to see Earth turning underneath, like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, or nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve, Nathan. Why would you expect the horizon to be a physical geometric sphere edge as we assert blocks things in the distance, you idiot? It's not Earth curve. I mean, yeah, we could go a few days without that happening. But all that then happens is your cursory glance watcher or listener in Discord who's plucked up the courage to go into the server pipes up. Because suddenly we start talking about bloody Matrix or He-Man.
We used to go about it a little more. I think we were a little more subtle about it, or we didn't focus on it much, the contradictions that they have within their own nonsense. I mean, we always did concentrate it, but now we're putting it out there, right? It's NDT versus Blue Marble, right? Because both sides are the same side, but have different narratives for the same story. And I think that's become something really devastating, to put it out, to really focus on it, which I think is dope. So we need to keep doing that. Because, yeah, you guys, it's the same story, but you got different stories of the same story. That's ridiculous.
I totally agree. And I put out a message to the whole of Skype today. So thank you to everybody who followed my request to share that particular video that I linked in my request far and wide. And I'll say that to my audience. If you're watching this as a member or you're watching this in an Uncut after show premiere, then I typically just say share the show, right? I want you to share this video. But in this instance, I'm going to talk about a specific video that I've made that I'm incredibly proud of. And it's called Globe Coriolis - What's the Problem? ? Exclamation mark, hashtag shorts. Because it's a 60-second or less video. Has to be a shorts on YouTube. So, it's the summary of the contrasting view between Neil deGrasse Tyson with 2 reference frames and Blue Marble Science with 1 reference frames, and the implications thereof for both sides and how it's not involving us as flat earthers. Now that summary was not possible a year ago, or even 6 months ago, and it's got from 2 hours of debating with, I'm Miley Cyrus, I can change reference frames, being yelled down my microphone, to a concise summary that doesn't even involve us from any debating aspect as flat earthers. Just, here's a globe claim, Earth's claim to turn underneath a football. Here's a globe claim, Earth's claim not turning under football or anything else. That's your problem. Sort it out, fundies. And then laugh at them as they fight amongst themselves with their 2 rhetorics from the globe.
I think the problem they're having is when we say we just don't know, they can't handle that. I know my son can't handle that. He wants answers to things. You can't just say you don't know what the sky is. They're very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, someone slipping down the knife edge, isn't it? So they've got a tacit acceptance that the world they've been presented with and told about isn't as they've been told about it. And therefore, shock horror, you've left with less answers than you thought you had. Well, instinct and natural reaction is, give me those answers back. Well, yeah. We've watched people slide down the knife edge a few times now. Sorry, you're just in the same boat as us. Don't have any answers? You can look at that 2 ways. Happy joy! Wow, what a world of possibility there is out there. Pete Shea, shout out to you, my friend, he moans about that. Nathan doesn't tell me what the sun is. No, I don't, because I don't know. But isn't that wonderful? I don't know. There was a time I thought it was a 93 million mile away burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum, because I was told it was that. Now, because I realise that's not possible, it's a second law of thermodynamics violation, doesn't suddenly mean I know what it is. And I rejoice in that. Nothing to be held against me in that respect, Pete, from the chat, you little sod. Oh, no, I'm just joking. I love Pete Shea. Awesome. Bonkers. Beautifully bonkers.
Wow, he constantly dogs you in the chat.
Yeah, that's because I do the same to him. I can't really dig out dish out, sorry, the kind of kind of grief that I give Pete for his nonsense, and then not expect him to moan and call me a shill and say I work for the BBC and that I don't give any answers and that I'm just here repeating myself over all the crap I get from Pete. Believe me, I give him back tenfold, and he's very tolerant about it. There's a kind of symbiotic relationship in that regard between Pete and myself, and I've got a lot of time for Pete, even with all of his grief. I know it's coming from the best of places. Pete's a softie, he's a good guy. He's still a dick, he's still a wanker, he still treats women with total disrespect.
Me a freaking agent.
Well, he's got a lot of nasty traits. He treats women incredibly badly. He's very disrespectful. There's a lot of things I can say that are bad about Pete Shea, and they are. But by the same token, he's not some monster, not at all.
Well, he says me and Chocolate, both from New York, and we don't talk about 9/11. So we're shills.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've spoken about 9/11. He doesn't like what I said, so therefore I'm an agent. I've been an agent for like 5 years. Pete, you're ridiculous, and I know you're listening to this.
Yeah,
stop being ridiculous, man.
Let me get this straight.
About it too.
Hold on, I'm a bit confused. You two are both from New York?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I speak about it too, though. I maybe that's it. He doesn't like what I say.
I don't know. Do you guys have a secret handshake or something you want to reveal to us, or what?
Fist bump.
Sometimes a fist bump could be just a head nod. That's how we do in New York.
Just don't touch your face.
Could be a stare at you, look, and then you just give a little nod, right, Chocolate?
Yeah.
Then you flash them your blade or your handpiece, and everyone knows what's what.
I was just gonna go into that, Nathan. You killed. Just gonna say, yeah.
Can you open carry in New York?
Show what knife you're carrying today.
What's the gun laws? Can you open carry, or what's the deal?
Hell no.
Not in New York. That's why my son keeps nagging me to go to Montana.
What, so he can open carry?
Yeah.
Yesterday, Nathan, yesterday, right? Akuma virus. I give him a lecture about how he doesn't listen to a single point that you say, and then we got into a conversation about this horizon and how a triangle needs 3 lines and you need 3 points, etc. to triangulate it. He didn't know what triangulation was. He didn't know what we meant by the hypotenuse. Do you know what we meant by the reflected light being straight in reality and bent in straight in their maths, but bent in reality? And I ended up screaming and shouting at him. And I know that you're authentically going mad at these people because the brumminess comes out, right? And I literally sounded pound for pound like you. And I literally went, "You fucking imbecile! That's why you don't fucking listen." And I literally parroted like a lecture. You should have heard it. Was so funny. It sounded so much like it. And I said, "I sounded like fucking Nathan here." Everyone just started laughing yesterday. It was funny.
Right, this is... Go on.
And then after all that, was that when he said, "Do you see how I'm attacking your argument?"
Human virus is a lost soul, man. Honestly.
It's good, Brummy. How you been, brother?
He attacks arguments, and he's got 3 options.
Brummy was what Spurs called Tommy, right? That's originated from Spurs.
Yeah. Well, whichever. Yeah, Tommy's my name. Yeah, Tommy Inch. Like that's my tag. Yeah.
Hey, Brummy.
That's what I do. That's what
I remember watching.
Brummy.
I remember you getting told to shut up, Brummy, by Spurs chemo. It's really funny.
Spurs, Joker. Spurs is still fucking just. He just takes people through the journey with his conversation. He doesn't try to put people on points anymore. He just tries to let them talk themselves into absurdity. He's got a good way of going about it, but he's so patronising. It's so condescending. It's so fucking drawn.
I love it.
And posh.
I love Spurs.
He's got a beautiful accent, so he sounds posh when he's saying it.
Yeah, it's wiping people with silk, isn't he? Well, that's what we're trying to find out, isn't it? That's what we're all trying to get here together now, isn't it? Like, we're trying to find out where the
I watch Spurs regularly. I should shout him out more often because you get into the routine of watching certain people. Spurs is definitely one of them, and then you kind of forget that you should be recommending what you enjoy watching. And I enjoy watching Spurs for that very reason. His condescending tone. Well, gentlemen, obviously we're all here for truth, aren't we? Now, that sort of thing is just hilarious.
Yeah.
He's like a teacher gathering the kids around. Like, gather around, you little globers. The flat earthers are here to teach you about what's
We're
what.
looking for evidence. All we're doing, we're asking for evidence, and you guys are struggling with that. And it's all we're asking for is just show us the curve. Just show us where the curve is, and then we can start to investigate. Like, can't we?
Let's do a proper shout out for Spurs Chemo actually. So his channel is called "Are You Smarter Than a Flat Earther?" and he's been doing this longer than I have. So he's been circulating his way through the debate arenas before I started debating my way through the debate arenas, and then eventually going on to make my own show. But Spurs was doing it often side by side with me when I was doing it. But he'd certainly, you know, I picked up tricks from him initially in terms of how he does it. He's a dab hand at it. You know, he knows exactly what he's doing. And he's got a lot more patience than I have. I know I occasionally get commended for my patience from my commenters who are definitely biased towards me when they do compliment me, but certainly I will give this to Spurs that he's got a damn sight more patience than I have with them when he's constantly fundy muted. He might get 2 or 3 breaths or sentences out at best, but he's prepared to deal with that. And, you know, me, I want to make the points clear and concise regardless of the desire by my opponent to mute whatever information's being disseminated. Spurs will tolerate it. And I don't know how he does it. It's good for him.
That's what I mean, though. You just get a drawn out. You get a drawn out process. You never really get to the point when you talk with Spurs. So people end up just talking. They end up just going forever. Whereas you hold them to a point, and it's more. You know what I mean? We want to get a yes on their answer here because they're talking double.
I don't know what Spurs categorises himself as. I've got education under my videos, so that's the purpose.
I kind of gave up my pursuit, man. I've given up my pursuit. I think you guys are just—it's in safe hands with you lot. Until Simon Dane comes down and gets on the live or something. They're on Twitter talking a lot of crap as well. I noticed there was on Instagram as well. So you should have a look around. I think they're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
put a lot of stuff out.
Are they on Instagram talking about how they need to set up debates between themselves because apparently they have 2 stories coming from the same side.
But they have got requests. They have got a request on Twitter where you can ask them questions, and I asked them to answer what you know, to have a debate with just on one topic between Nathan and Simon Dan. And I asked him on Twitter. I said, the only thing you need to debate is with the reference frames. I said, I don't want to realise who's laughing at who because both of you claim to have duked them, and whoever sends the reference frames is basically detrimental to them. But they're saying it's detrimental to your argument, and you're saying it's detrimental to their argument when they say reference frames. And I just want to see who's right out of the two, really, and have that debate. And I've asked Simon Dan to do that.
Both of them are their argument, though.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what he's saying. Yeah, you're agreeing. That's what Tommy's saying. Their argument has 2 positions, and Tommy's just asking, like I'm asking, who's right here? Is it blue marble with 1 reference frame, no drift to see, no effect to observe, Earth and atmosphere move together so you don't see drift? 1 reference frame. I quote, blue marble, 1 reference frame, end quote. Right, that's what he's claiming. Or, blue marble is completely wrong, and Neil deGrasse Tyson with his standard globe rhetoric of 2 reference frames is the actual claim. Which is it? 2 reference frames, 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns beneath stuff not attached. That's called Coriolis effect, as is widely documented as a globe claim. Or blue marble science and Simon Dan, who say, oh no, 1 reference frame.
Virus says they're both right.
Can't both be right. Can't simultaneously have drift because Earth turns underneath and no drift because Earth does not turn underneath. End quote. Blue marble science.
That's because you don't understand, Nathan.
Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence that 5 minutes ago, is that microphone? Someone's microphone feedback. Hello. Someone's got feedback for the microphone. Any coincidence that only 2 minutes earlier, Nathan, I just said that they always you put them to a point where they're rather double speaking, and this is it. The trousers are down. Which one is it, left or right? Yes or no? You know, you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it. It's like it's the same sort of stuff you fight when you pin them down, like this open-closed system we live in. Oh, it's technically open, but it's closed. We call it a closed system, but it's technically open. It acts as a closed system, but it's technically open. It's just double speak, and you find it everywhere, all around there. You know, when you get into the corners of like the fringes of determining whether the reality, you know, is what they say it was or not. It's always a, you know, percentage or a calculation or something you're not taking into account. You know.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It is double speak, and they play semantics. They've basically refined and tried to change the definition of Coriolis in some respect to mean that the object in question is moving as well as the rotating surface. But as far as I've always known, that's not a necessary antecedent for Coriolis to happen.
That's correct. The necessary antecedent for Coriolis to happen is you rotating beneath.
The funny thing is, when I ask them straight a question, I say, when I go outside and I see planes flying, and I fly in a plane and I look at the Earth, right, it acts and behaves as if it's inside of a closed, flat plane. It doesn't act as if anything's moving or anything's rotating or anything's spinning. You know, it doesn't. Nothing acts as if that. It feels like I'm flying through a container. You know, so it doesn't seem like I'm surrounded by space, infinite amounts of space that I'm falling through. Or it's because gravity doesn't pull down. Things are just like, they don't pull to each other. They just orbit each other for some mad reason. All these masses that have gravitational effects are all balanced out in some equilibrium. But it all happened just randomly by chance. It's just, these people are just absolutely balmy. And they say, oh, how can you say the world's created? Well, obviously it's fucking, how can you have all the chemicals to make a cake? Yeah? Shake them up for 1 billion years and expect a cake to just bake itself. There's something that them chemicals went through some sort of process.
Nice analogy. Nice, and I'm having that. I think you'll find that's copywritten Nathan Oakley 2021. Actually.
Hey Nathan, let me add on to that. You would have to be baked to believe it.
That's a good analogy. You got to admit. Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like when I say that to them, like in the global room, they talk back to me like as if it makes sense. It's an obvious analogy which makes perfect sense, but they'll always pull that apart and say, "Oh, that's not analogous. Oh, because that's not what science says." And I've heard them reply that a lot, and I'm like, "Well, okay. So what science says is that there's a bunch of stuff, right, with no one inputting it, and it just all pulled itself together through gravitational effects through different sizes of things, and they all transformed into different elements, which all spewed out into different sorts of elements, which then eventually created planets." Like you guys are more crazy because all this stuff happened without any input. So that to me seems to be the lesser of the two. There are two options. What seems more crazy? All these reactions just happen naturally through the fundamental laws of physics, or that obviously some sort of import, some sort of inspiration, or some sort of influence was inputted.
Yeah. We use that analogy. We use that analogy when we're witnessing for Christ as well. But it takes more faith to believe what they believe.
I agree.
Right, because the developments on their side are psychological. How can they move deeper within a suspense of disbelief and cognitive dissonance without breaking the spell to themselves? That's what they develop.
They can't. That's the problem. That's where we started this conversation, right? They're in the midst of doublespeak and contradiction. They start with a globe faith that has a certain rhetoric. It gets proven wrong. And then rather than trying to fix it, because it can't be, it's been debunked, they attack the person who's come up with the debunking and attack the debunking. And they ignore the fact that they are attacking a debunking and also attacking their original claim. That is the essence of cognitive dissonance, holding both positions simultaneously. So it's like it follows with at least Earth turn as this. I understand that we'll see Coriolis effect on a globe because I'm a globe believer. What is Coriolis effect? Well, it's a deviation apparent because I'm turning beneath stuff. How do you experience this effect? Well, you can only experience the effect if you're turning beneath stuff. That's how Coriolis effect is induced. You have to turn beneath stuff to see this apparent effect. I see. So if we're turning beneath hot air balloons, they'd drift away. No. Earth and atmosphere move together as one reference frame, and Earth does not turn underneath hot air balloons. Are you an idiot? Because if you don't understand this, I'm going to have your job. What? Hold on. You just explained that Earth turns as a second reference frame underneath things. And that's what the globe claims. 15 degrees an hour of Coriolis deviation. That's a globe claim, right? We've all got that straight. What makes you, flat earther, think that Earth should turn underneath stuff? What the hell's going on? I don't think Earth should be turning underneath stuff as a flat earther. Why? How is this being repositioned as my claim when it's simply a globe claim that doesn't happen and has been debunked? Well, because what are you going to do when you debunk the claim that things are drifting because Earth's turning beneath them? You tell the flat earther that he's claiming Earth's turning underneath stuff and then attack that.
Right, he's juggling the hot potato, and then as soon as you point that out, he throws it all to you and hope that you're going to pick it up and start juggling with it.
Yeah, whereas what I've done is gone, yeah, that potato is never gonna come in my direction in a cage fight between NDT and Blue Marble. Even if he's got tag team partner Simon Dan right next to him, doesn't matter which way they throw that hot potato, it ain't coming out of the cage when both of these are globe claims. Earth turns underneath football, 2 reference frames from NDT, and we've got citation now thanks to one of my kind commenters from Penn State. So, that's the first globe claim that we've got in the cage contending for globe claims and their superiority. Second globe claim, notice no flat earthers in the cage, is no drift, I quote. Earth isn't turning underneath, end quote. Blue Marble Science. Or Simon Dan, you and your reference frames are ruined. Yeah, that's a version of a hot potato, you and your reference frames are ruined, aimed at me, and is now sealed in a cage with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who needs 2 reference frames, Dan. So your potato didn't end up burning me now, did it? Because it's been thrown directly at Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says you need 2 reference frames. What are you going to do if they're ruined, Dan?
It's a classic violation of the law of non-contradiction in logic. Right?
Well, it's funny how they keep trying. Go ahead.
It's a one hell of a pickle.
You need to attack these guys with different social media platforms. I think if you get them on Twitter, because there are obviously a lot of people that they talk to on Twitter, they tend to make a lot of videos and put them on there as well. And like it's another outlet, another platform, and I think that's where they, because I made a video literally asking him to answer this. Obviously, he won't ever debate you on it, and if they do debate you, they'll try and get you to talk about all the things that they teach at school. So they'll make them look smarter, because if they talk about the things that they teach at school, then it's like, oh, they're practiced at it and they're well versed on it. And obviously, most people forget. At least 10 out of 10 people forget what they learn at school. So it's not like you're not incapable of learning it. But we were here to talk about gas pressure for a container, for example, when I debated cats. But then he wanted to talk about every little aspect of physics, because obviously he wanted to look like he was superior to me and that I was not to be listened to or trusted. When the simple principle was just whether, could you demonstrate it in any way? And obviously he couldn't demonstrate it. So just concede that.
Did you have to... Sorry, hold on one sec. Did you have to repeat that question a few times to him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sleeping Warrior, he made a video of it where we done like a drink counter. So every time that I asked him to answer the question, he said he will always get back to it and he's not trying to swerve it, I promise. And every time he said something to not avoid answering the question, he then he added up to about 20-odd drinks. About 20 times he swerved me, or maybe more, can't remember. But yeah, it was painful, because for a whole hour when we was on the debate live, that was the time to talk about it, for us to get into that actual principle. But he didn't actually give me an answer until the debate was over and the people in the questions, and that said something. And he said something that obviously I would have been able to rebuttal if he actually made that position when I asked him an hour earlier.
So are you saying that as a result, that debate point didn't seem to appear to be won, basically?
Yeah, basically, what I went in there for, I didn't get to actually get into, because he got me to dance around on every other topic, explaining about what my understanding of like gas and pressure, and because he made there was a massive difference between pressurized gas and gas pressure.
I see.
And I said there's still gas pressure, and he said no, they're not. So like basically, I want to sit there arguing about whether I think a gas.
So he
pressure
said no, there's not. So in other words, demonstrated intellectual dishonesty and lied about the circumstances being debated about.
Yeah.
I see. You see, the reason I bring this up, Tommy, is because a chap got in touch with me called Pat Brittenden, and he's claiming to have like 1 million views a day. He's a New Zealander, right? And he asked me if I wanted to debate. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll go on your platform. You're popular, and I'll debate. And he came back to me and said, I've got debate partner cats lined up. And I raised a series of objections with this guy. The main one being that when I've debated cats, I've had to put no less than 80 renditions of the same point. Coincidentally, the same point you're talking about now. Having to repeat, 20, 25 times? And the point doesn't get won. Now, in response to this Pat Brittenden guy is like, it'll be a fair debate, even though I'm absolutely unequivocally biased in favour of this cartoon character I'm going to put in front of you, who is not a globe expert and is in fact a school teacher who turned YouTuber and now goes out with an anti-flat earth rhetoric, ignoring points in excess of 80 times. Yeah? So trying to get this across to somebody who's obviously biased in favour of a globe, this host, Pat Brittenden, he refuses. I've now given him 5 renditions of this point that we're now discussing, Tommy. That when it comes to somebody who's an anti-flat earther like Katz, you have to point out to somebody who's intending to utilise their abilities in debate that they don't allow debating points to be won by way of intellectual dishonesty, ignorance of the point, that would be to ignore the point completely, and diversionary tactics away from subject matters which are having to be repeated again and again and again instead of being conceded. Am I correct, Tommy, in my frustration with this particular host who's essentially lined up somebody who is unreasonable and incapable of actually generating a decent discussion or debate with?
I mean, at the end of the day, when I first came across you, I never knew absolutely who you was, didn't know nothing about you. You give me a chance to speak my shit. I spoke my shit. You then criticised me on it. I then had to go do some homework. I came back. I conceded certain points. You know, I made progress. I then went back to the globe. Do you know what I mean? So you was always a hostile to me. You know, there was always a hostile. So it was never like there was any favours or anything like that. But if you can't answer somebody, it takes more humility to just admit that you can't answer it. But rather than they admit that, they would rather get you on a goose chase. And you know, in the end,
you know what I wish?
The only way you could demonstrate gas pressure without a container is to have to have an Earth without a container. And I says, well, you've got one. He says, yeah, but I need a container the size of the atmosphere. Well, the containers. So you still need a container to demonstrate it. You know, he doesn't get it.
Tommy, do you remember when he actually fixed the question for you? He said, what you really mean is not how do you have gas pressure without a container. It's how do you have pressurized gas without a container. Remember when he fixed the question for you?
Yeah. How he's trying to change pressurized gas pressure to pressurized. He says to see the difference between gas pressure and pressurized gas. I said, well, they both got gas pressure. He went, no, they're different. I goes, well, unless you can tell me the difference between that, I can't answer that question. I said, like, after an hour of chasing you around, you're really going to fucking say that at the end of it, that, oh, unless I know the difference in gas, like, with some like, little semantical little bullshit thing where I'm still right with my instinct. My instinct was right. They're pretty much the same thing. Gas pressure, pressurized gas, still gas pressure. And he said, no. So he then put doubt into my own response, and actually was incorrect, a correct statement to respond to it. He then tried to throw doubt on my actual instincts because common sense will take you to pressurized gas, and gas pressure. They're still going to have gas pressure, so they're both fucking the same thing.
Exactly. That's why I would have asked him. Oh, so okay, if that's really the question, so then how do you have pressurized gas without a container?
Yeah. I asked him that. Yeah, I asked him that.
Hold on, you asked him that. So, in other words, this was part of one of the obfuscations and renditions where he's repositioned the question. You've then gone along with his repositioning of the question, asked him the exact same thing that he said that you should be asking, and then did you get an answer? Or did it just result in another repetition of the same question?
He said, until you know the difference between pressurized and gas pressure, I don't think it's best that we go into that. Like he was trying to use these kind of like a degree, his academics to kind of hide behind it, trying to say, well, just because you don't know that's like if you can't even do a simple jump, then there's no point trying to do a long jump. Do you know what I mean?
I see.
That's smart.
Sort of like Ernesto.
Well, it's sort of like conspiracy cats, because this is who we're talking about, because I'm going to trim this out and send it to this guy, this biased guy with a globe belief, who seems to be hell-bent on getting me to be convinced, without any address to any of my responses, which are pretty much hinged around what we're discussing here, in objection to conspiracy cats as an opponent. You know, this is what you deal with when you're dealing with anti-flat earth teachers come YouTubers as opposed to globe experts. You know, they can just tell you that they're not going to address your question because you don't know the difference between pressurized gas and gas at pressure, which are the same thing. But if you can't describe the difference between them, you're not going to have the discussion. You see, that's an unreasonable opponent. And I think we'll all agree that that's something that should be addressed if they're potentially going to become your opponent and you faced them before, as Tommy and I both have.
Right, well, people like conspiracy cats, they don't really actually do it for the win in a technical sense. Their main strategy as an anti-flat earther specifically is to wear you out, to drain you, to keep... Basically, in their mind, you're in a chair with a spotlight on you, they have full control, and they'll just mind control, torture you until you give up.
Not no more. I'm sorry.
But that's what they always try, though. They don't even really try to win anymore because they know.
Maybe in the beginning.
Neil,
can you stop rumpusing?
Sorry.
Right, but That's what I see. They just wear you out every time, because anytime you start to take any argument serious, or they give you a halfway concession, as soon as you then take that halfway concession and remind them that their entire argument is flawed, then they don't want it. They just gave you the concession because they wanted to be nice and move on. They never want to get to the real argument. They never do, because they know they've lost and they can never win.
And at the time, he danced around it.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
go ahead, Neil.
No, I was just gonna say they had the upper hand in the beginning, but not anymore. They don't. They tread lightly. They don't go into a debate now feeling like they have the upper hand. So I guess you are right, Owen, in a way.
They can just red herring and straw man scattergun you until infinity. They have so many of these standardized
I don't mind.
questions.
Sorry, Aaron, sorry.
That's it. They just have so much ammo.
Go ahead, Tommy.
That was terrible. 2 car crashes there. I was gonna say, fucking something about the Globers. I don't tend to see, both positions. I don't tend to hold anyone. Like for example, Nathan has a go at me. It's water for ducks back, because all I'm interested in is the argument valid or not, and that's what I bring to them, and I tell them what your arguments are, and they still try to demonize me, and yet I bring that I was particularly the messenger to the argument to literally differentiate that, so they can't just attack the character, because usually when you bring up the question, it's you only heard it from them. Why would you listen to Nathan Oakley when there's experts out there telling you different? I'm thinking to myself, well, it makes perfect sense that somebody that that would basically be someone with common sense that would probably come up with these rebuttals, because most people that are academical, that they kind of just have to follow the academics, and that's kind of like that's part of the procedure. They don't kind of you don't really get academical people that try to fight their academics, because they lose their job.
Right. This is something that I, again, tried to cover with this Pat guy as an objection. What I want is a globe expert. Because the anti-flat earthers, like your Simon Dans and your conspiracy cats and your insert cartoon name here, they've got no accountability to their field of expertise. Because they're not experts in this field. And they will appeal to random ethereal experts in the globe whenever needed. So it's like, I want that. I want the random ethereal expert in the globe to debate against if I'm going to leave my so-called echo chamber, where anybody like these cartoon characters are welcome, but they don't come. So they've got an open door, and they're perfectly willing to sometimes interact with us. Maybe, if we'll take their bait of their quote-unquote neutral platforms. But if I'm going to go further yonder into a big audience, get me an expert. So that the dick cartoon character's not going to appeal to some expert that isn't sat in front of me debating me. I want the expert. It's not that unreasonable a request, but apparently cartoon characters with no name, who are YouTubers after being school teachers for kids, they're the expert. That's the standard, is it? Oh yeah, apparently there's about 7 billion globe believers out there, but that's the lowest standard you can scrape the bottom of the barrel with. Ex-school teacher turned cartoon character, wonderful standard. Now get an expert.
Nathan, I think, but hang on, Tommy. Nathan, I think enough time has passed to see the brilliant separation of anti-flat earther from glober. It is so clear now that it's been a few months now that we've had that term going around. Would you say?
Yeah, I totally agree. It has definitely helped. It over time, it is clearing up. Like you made a really good division, and basically renaming the original trenchers, as we called it back then. Like it is really anti-flat earth. It's great argument.
No, how long has it been, Nathan? Would you say?
I had that premise quite a long time ago, so I don't know if that's going to not help your point. So just make your point anyway.
Well, you've standardized it in the last month.
Okay, that I'll go with.
Okay, let's go with that. So now what's beautiful is that the flat earthers, our panel, I can't speak for other channels, have to reiterate to the anti-flat earthers the official globe position. Then when you cite Neil deGrasse Tyson and others who are the official globe position, they are now at odds. So you've created this situation, which is brilliant, because now those two have opposing positions on the same topic. And we're just in this stands watching, like you said, the cage fight that's about to
I
take
used
place.
to think it was so funny when I got into this argument as to why are they throwing these guys, their priests, the guys who teach them this crap, why are they throwing them all up under the bus? I didn't get it at first. I was like, what the hell?
They weren't.
Like,
They weren't. They weren't. What they were doing is they were repositioning the argument of the priests as our argument. Why would you expect Earth to turn underneath a hot air balloon, Nathan? Suck my balls. I don't expect Earth to turn underneath anything. Neil deGrasse Tyson says Earth turns underneath. That'd be addressed to Blue Marble Science currently, or Simon Dan in years gone by, or Rumpus in years gone by, or George Netanyahu in years gone by, or Conspiracy Cats in years gone by, or insert cartoon character no name anti-flat earther here. Because they all tell us one reference frame from the anti-flat earth side of the argument. No drift to sea. So, you need to address that to who it's actually being made as a claim by. And that's Neil deGrasse Tyson in line with the actual globe rhetoric. Not my claim. So they never were throwing their gurus under the bus, Chocolate. They reassign the argument to you. Why would Chocolate expect Earth to turn underneath shit?
Oh, I don't.
This is
that's them.
There's a good analogy for this. When I used to help people read their contracts to see what the company promised them, we often hear the client say, yeah, but the salesman said this. The salesman said that. I said, okay, can we call the salesman? Sure enough, some of them bit. They'd come to the house. I'd be sitting there with the contract that the salesman sold to the client. His signature's on the application page. So I'd say to him, hi, this is who I am. I'm here to help so-and-so. And he'd already be on the defensive. And I'd say, this is what they thought they bought, and this is what the contract says it is. They're opposite. How can you tell them it's something when the contract doesn't or will ever deliver on that promise? Then he'd take, like an anti-flat earther, he'd take a position of rearranging the meaning of the words. But he spoke too soon, because then I go to page 8, and I go page 16 and page 32 and on, and point out the official language of the contract and would contradict him. It got to the point where the customer would stand up, say, you lied to me, I'm canceling this, get out of my house. Because I used the contract, the official position, versus the salesman's position. It was just that simple. And that's what the audience is going to see from the anti-flat and that global position, the official position. They'll see the contradiction.
So who's the official position? NDT, correct?
Yes. The official position is Earth claims that we will see a not actual deflection known as Coriolis effect. This effect is induced as you turn beneath an inertial reference frame to observe what actually has a straight path seeming to have a curved path. For example, Neil deGrasse Tyson would describe a football that seemed to have a curved path through the goal. Now that effect is induced by visualization as you are on a rotating claim to be turning Earth, moving underneath the ball that travels through the air. Effectively, the goal posts moved under the ball. That's two reference frames, inertial reference frame with the ball travelling through it, and non-inertial claim to be spinning Earth underneath it. That's the official claim. Coriolis effect is what claim we have on a globe. Simple. Now, when we point out that if there's two reference frames, then Earth is turning beneath hot air balloons. That's us challenging the actual official globe claim. Enter Flat Earth proponent who's actually on our side but is claimed to be a globe believer, now named Anti-Flat Earther. Anti-Flat Earther because this guy's now going to take my position. My position is Earth doesn't rotate under hot air balloons, Mr. Tyson. You say it does. Anti-Flat Earther comes along and says Earth doesn't rotate underneath hot air balloons, but doesn't say Neil deGrasse Tyson's name. He says my name. Says Earth doesn't rotate underneath hot air balloons, Nathan. And I go, yeah, that's my point. addressed to Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, you don't understand the Coriolis effect. How is this turning into an argument that I'm making? I don't need reference frames. No, you do, because you're talking about them. Yeah, I'm talking about how we don't have them and Earth doesn't rotate underneath hot air balloons. That's right, Earth doesn't turn underneath hot air balloons. We're not on a roundabout. Do you think we are spinning or something? Says the anti-flat earther. And so this continues, with suddenly a position that Earth should turn underneath a hot air balloon being reassigned to the flat earther who's just debunked it.
It's lunacy. It is really lunacy. It's like, and even when you give them the answer, they still argue like you haven't just told them the answer. And I ask them to repeat back the answer, and then they admit that they didn't hear the answer. So then you tell them the answer again, and then they still don't concede. And then it goes round again, and you're like, "Come on, man! Like seriously."
Because they're not listening. In their mind, they're trying to find a way to turn your words against you. That's it. They're trying that moment by somehow confusing you.
You're right. That's the problem.
Exactly. And you know who fell victim to this? Brian Mullen. So Brian Mullen pointed out NDT's rhetoric of globe turning underneath a football and the havoc that would cause to aeroplanes. Because there's two reference frames, right, NDT? Earth turning under a football? I can't quote him verbatim, but he says the longer it spends in the air, the more significant the effect's going to be. So you go, oh, right, okay, I follow that logic, quoted by Neil deGrasse Tyson, or paraphrased, I should say, by me. Neil deGrasse Tyson says the longer it's in the air, the more there'll be an effect of these two reference frames. Earth turning beneath the ball, and if it's in the air longer, we'll see more effect. So if it's a hot air balloon in the air for a long time, we'll see a lot of effect, but we don't see any. There's the problem. Enter George Netanyahu, who says, Earth and atmosphere move as one, conservation of angular momentum, I'm now going to go after your job because you don't understand that Neil deGrasse Tyson's claim of two reference frames is wrong. But because you're saying Neil deGrasse Tyson's claim that Earth has two reference frames, and we obviously don't see that happen, I'm going to go after your career. Because then it's going to be really clear to anybody watching that don't fuck with Coriolis effect on a globe. It doesn't happen and we can't observe it. But if you point that out, I'll have your job.
Right, they try to make their own globe flaws into our claims about the globe as flat earthers. So they just want to shove it all in our shoes. Right? We're the ones that reminding it doesn't exist. So they're going to put that on us. Like, how dare you claim we have all this claim about what the globe Earth should do?
Exactly, Owen. And that is why I want an expert if I'm going to go and debate on a so-called neutral platform where the host is definitely biased towards the opinions of my opponent. I want the opponent to be an expert, not some shithead that can say, an expert says blah, 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 and I'm going to completely contradict it and then ignore every objection 80 times. Expert.
By the way, they took credit for actually getting Brian Mullen a better job.
What?
They said if it wasn't for
I don't
us,
care. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't care. What I care about is the two differing positions. One of which is being asserted in this instance, if we want to talk about that subject, by Brian Mullen. Brian Mullen's pointing out that Coriolis effect requires two reference frames. That would cause havoc if you were landing a plane, because Earth would be turning beneath the plane, like it turns beneath a bullet and a ball, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, with graphics of Earths turning beneath balls. It's very clear what Neil deGrasse Tyson claims, in spite of dicks like Blue Marble telling me he never said Earth turned underneath a ball. Here's the graphic of him describing Earth turning under a ball with Earth turning under a ball, and him saying it deflected through the goal, two reference frames, because Earth's claimed to turn beneath it. Here's Penn State saying Earth turns beneath as a second reference frame, and the ground beneath lags behind. It's definitely claimed to have two reference frames. That is the globe claim. We point out Earth does not turn underneath hot air balloons, or Brian Mullen points out that Earth doesn't turn underneath flights causing havoc as they land. And George says that if you don't understand that Earth and atmosphere travel together to give you no drift, you're going to have us contacting your license supplier and putting your job and your new family and your new marriage all at risk. Because if this license supplier perhaps takes away your license, given that they weren't really giving you a second thought until I contacted them, then that's definitely going to fuck with your life now, isn't it? And why is it going to fuck with your life? Because you don't understand that Neil deGrasse Tyson's explanation of Earth turning under a ball is never to be pointed out when it comes to aeroplanes, because it doesn't happen. So, watch your step, flat earther. You are now claiming Earth should turn under an aeroplane. No. Earth and atmosphere travel together. Wasn't that made explicitly clear by Neil deGrasse Tyson with his 2 reference frames and drift? You don't understand this completely contradictory position that I'm now telling you your job's at risk because of. Oh, well, if you didn't know that there's conservation of momentum and only 1 reference frame, no drift to observe, then you're definitely at risk of having your life fucked up by me, says George Netanyahu. Now it's all come to a head. We want to know who's right, George. No drift under the planes, you went to the licensed supplier of a man who pointed out Neil deGrasse Tyson's rhetoric of 2 reference frames, or the very clear Earth doesn't turn underneath, end quote, Blue Marble and George Netanyahu and Simon Dan position. There's a whole bunch of you tards, isn't there? All saying 1 reference frame, contrary to the globe rhetoric. So held dear to your hearts that you'll go after people's career because they don't understand that there's only 1 reference frame, flying in the face of the claim that there's 2. So we want to get this sorted, George. Not because we want to absolve you of the dick behaviour of you contacting another man because of a discussion about the fact that you claim 2 reference frames on a globe and you disagree and will have a man's job if he doesn't understand how it doesn't actually in line with the rhetoric of a globe and 2 reference frames only has 1. Yeah. Obviously that convoluted gaggle screw of fucktardness is definitely cause for you to get involved in another man's life, isn't it, George? I hear your house burnt down. Couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Yeah, but you can play Neil deGrasse Tyson's quote for them, and they'll still deny that he says Earth turns.
Yeah, deny Earth turns from the anti-flat Earth side, where they say there's no drift underneath, Earth not turning beneath, Earth not causing Coriolis. That's the anti-flat Earth position. They'll fight in their blue in their face, telling us that there's no drift, no observable effect, all turning together, velcroed atmosphere, bonded to Earth, moving in violation of first law. All of this is the crap we get that stands in contradiction of the actual globe rhetoric. Not us saying Earth should turn beneath. Why on earth would a flat earther say Earth should turn beneath a bullet or a ball?
Well, this is why this is all working out for our side, not theirs, because every time we address their contradiction, the audience sees it. The audience, well, no, you can't have it both ways. That's not what I was taught in school, the audience member will say. Obviously, we're more in the trenches here, but any normie would say, yeah, the Earth turns. And then if a normie listens to the show where you describe an anti-flat earther and a baller, the normie's going to side with the baller point of view because that's how they were raised. And then when the baller point of view doesn't work out, and the anti-flat earther view is the opposite of the baller view that doesn't work out, the audience gets it. That's why this is great, what we're doing.
Yeah, well, when you realise Earth and atmosphere can't be velcroed together in violation of the first law of thermodynamics, the higher the atmosphere goes, the faster it must track, therefore increasing its energy level in violation of the first law of thermodynamics. When you realise that doesn't work, that gas is unbonded, and even if that did work, it wouldn't give you any demonstrable effect to prove you spin, and then you go, oh, well, then we must be turning underneath, and we say, yeah, well, a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would only take an hour and a half if Earth was turning beneath it. That doesn't happen either. You realise the inevitable obvious nature of the world that you actually have, which is that it's stationary.
Well, that would mean that the continent is coming towards you, Nathan, and that's just silly. Continents don't move.
Yeah, it's not like the deflection that a ball is moving towards one side or another of a goalpost would be the ground literally moving underneath the ball, and therefore if that ball was in the air for a significant period of time, there'd be a more elaborate effect. I'm paraphrasing Neil deGrasse Tyson there, by the way. He says there's more of an effect the longer the thing's in the air. That effect being Earth turning beneath it. Until you point out that the blimp film in the game hasn't got Earth turning beneath it. And then suddenly this becomes your flat Earth claim that Earth turns beneath stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I don't mind what position anyone holds. If you're a flat earther or if you're a glober, I don't see why it has to be like people have to attack the person. Doesn't matter who the argument's coming from. Just let's see who's right, who's wrong. You know what I mean? And I find that a lot of globers do tend to think, oh, because you're a flat earther or because you don't accept what's been said. You automatically demonize and automatically categorize to aid their defense, so they don't listen to anything you say, because they'll categorize you as like a conspiratard or crazy person. Then anything, then they won't take anything you say seriously. But it's completely that's the defense mechanism that they've embedded into their subconscious.
Well, if I can just summarize a position that I've read on online sources and heard from many Globers, is you would only see the Coriolis effect if the object is moving towards the north or the south. See, their reference frames are the different latitudes rather than Earth and the object, right?
Okay.
So, the position they actually hold is an object will only experience Coriolis effect if it's traveling north towards the north or the south.
So we got a ball. We got two reference frames, right? And it will only work if you throw it from a certain way.
Now this is Globiolis that they're now.
The object experiences Coriolis?
They give the example of like two trains. Like if you're imagining a train moving on the equator.
Let's say you're on a roundabout and you got a ball. You throw the ball as you're spinning, and it experiences like a deviation as you throw it outward straight. From one observer, it looks straight. From the other one, it seems to curve. The person who's off the roundabout and they throw the ball, it will come out straight. The person on the roundabout, because they're experiencing Coriolis and because they're moving as they turn underneath the second reference frame, they're going to experience a different behavior of the ball that's thrown.
Tommy Ench, ladies and gentlemen, that was absolutely perfect. I thank you.
But it's not an actual drift. It's an optical illusion.
That's correct.
That's from listening to your show, Nathan. I've learned all this from listening to you, and you're not an expert apparently. And I've learned so much about the arguments and like the terminology and the stuff, because you literally drill it into them. And when you're lecturing them, I'm actually just being lectured myself, because I'm thinking, all right, okay. And I'm thinking, well, we'll go from there. And I'd like them to concede so we can move to the next point, because I want to get to the actual finale, because I'm pretty sure there's more to go. But they're just too scared to go there with you and admit when they're wrong,
Exactly. I'm so glad you're here, because that's exactly the point I'm making over and over again, repeating it time and time again to this guy who wants to have me on his show. And obviously I've, gone, yeah, I want to be on your show. And like you say, you don't want the same point 80 times. You want to move on. You want a concession so you can move on. Not a confusing obfuscation, or being told that if you don't define the difference between gas pressure and pressurized gas, the question's not getting asked, or some other unreasonable crap. Those things don't make for good discussion and debate. They certainly don't make for either side winning the point. It means that one point obfuscates away, and then the next one's hopefully ushered in by the person that's obfuscated it, which we see all the time. Hence me wanting an expert, because then they've got a rhetoric that they've got to stick to, because it's their career and their ass if they don't.
What kind of expert would you want?
Say again?
Neil deGrasse Tyson would be good, wouldn't he?
Hold on a second, Tommy. Okay. Sovereign Pizza, go ahead.
Oh, I just was
Cinder.
asking like one. Yeah, Cinder. Yeah. So I was just asking what kind of expert would you want? Like, I mean, there is no globe. There is no globe expert, right? I mean, experts usually are people who put a lot of time in the topic or in the work they do, and so they become experts by.
Sounds like you're explaining Nathan to me. Sounds like you're explaining like Nathan and quantum eraser. That's what it sounds like.
So you're telling me there's no astrophysics departments?
No, I just was wondering if you would want to talk.
I just ask again rather than you brushing past my point. So there's not an astrophysics department. What are they? Just keep talking through it after brushing past it the first time. I'll try and get it through once to you. So there's not a department in a university dedicated to this subject then?
Oh, I was answering your question, the one, and as I said, there are geologists, there are astrophysicists.
So experts. So experts then.
Yeah.
So there's experts out there. Is Katz an astrophysicist or geologist?
No.
So he's not a fucking expert then, is he?
No.
So what's your objection again, twat?
That's why I...
Twat! So our discussion is about how Katz isn't a fucking expert. He's an ex-school teacher. He used to teach kids. Now he's turned YouTuber. Now, given that I'm in the minority here, I have no issue whatsoever labelling myself an expert, given that there's no flat earth department in a university to get myself accreditation for the expert status I've assigned myself. So I'm going to call myself a fucking expert. You don't have to like that. But Cats, on the other hand, is just one of many, 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 many wankers who like to call themselves an expert, in spite of the fact there's fucking departments that can give them expert status. Like you've just listed. I'd like one of them.
So you basically...
So I'd like one of them, wanker. Yeah, I'd like a fucking expert to debate me. You aren't that.
You're a fucking idiot.
You're a dick. Like Cats, you're a cartoon character. I've never seen your face. I don't know your name. I can't research you. I can't study your accreditation. I can't see how much of an expert you are. You are a faceless wanker. Like Cats, just a twat with a name and no expertise in the matters that I debate. Experts in tactics and obfuscation and ignoring the same point 80 times. Definitely not an expert.
It's funny how you just...
I don't give a fuck what you find funny. You're just a faceless dick.
Nathan already told you the answer to the question, and then you then asked him the question again after he already gave you the answer again.
It didn't.
He did. He did. He said...
What's an expert? You told me which departments would give someone expert status. You told me that. I've answered your question, dickhead.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, did. You told me where they'd get expert status.
I asked you...
You told me where they'd get expert status, and I agreed with you. There's definitely places to acquire this expertise and get accredited for it. And me, I don't have that luxury in my particular minority, because I'm definitely in the minority here. So I don't think it's unreasonable, given the vast swathes of wankers who'd like to label themselves experts, in spite of the fact there's somewhere they can get expert status. That's who I want. Second time.
So basically no answer. Thank you very much.
What? I want an expert, and the expert status that you assign to these people, given their expert qualifications from a particular field in a particular university, doesn't count as experts anymore, because you came up with the idea. I didn't label them as experts, you did.
I never labeled anybody as expert.
All right, well, you tell me then. So no astrophysics, no astrophysics departments in universities then. That was my original question.
Of course there are astrophysics departments.
All right, so experts. What about geologists? You came up with that one too, didn't you?
So you want any of those?
Oh, an expert? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking for. Maybe if we repeat this about 16 more times, we'll establish unconditionally that Cats is not an expert in this field.
Like he told you earlier, and now you've just come and been told again. Do you remember he told you before? Did your little memory get jogged then when he said what he just said again? Because literally rung bells in your ears, and I heard you smiling as he said it.
Yeah, is that...
Yeah, he did tell you then. You didn't listen then.
No, you don't let me talk. Okay, fine. Okay,
Right,
I'm not going to talk anymore. Great, thank you.
I think he was talking through Nathan's summary of it.
Of course he was.
That's why he didn't hear it.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's known as fundamentalist religious zealot mute button. So I don't have to respond to what's being put to me. If I talk through every word of it, that would be a detailed explanation how we have expert, accreditable fields that people can claim to be experts in. The field I discuss as my expertise field has no expert arena in a university to acquire. It's not unreasonable as your side, with billions of people to pick from, shouldn't pick one of the wankers that just calls themselves an expert when you've got fields paid for by some of it my money to get one of them. Not unreasonable.
And I would say that when he was describing a globe expert, he says somebody that knows everything about the globe. All I thought was he's describing you, Nathan. You are a globe expert. That's why you became flat earther, because you learnt the globe, you learnt it inside and out, learn what they do, what they don't do. When asked questions on what they do and don't do, it only leads to one conclusion: they're obviously not being honest with themselves.
Does Zinder agree with the experts or with the non-experts?
It's a good question.
Do you have Coriolis drift, Zinder, or no?
That's a really good question. Get him to answer that. What's his name? I can get him on to unmute himself and answer that.
Goes by Zinder. Did you hear the question, Zinder? Gone very quiet suddenly. Do you realise that this is going to be an outcome that only attacks Blue Marble and NDT, or Simon, Dan and Penn State?
Yeah, he rage quit. He said he's
Oh, really? Oh, really? Let me get this straight. It got down to the brass tacks of NDT versus Blue Marble and he ran away. How very, very telling indeed.
Because it's much more fun to talk about experts, non-experts, and where they at, and who you want to debate, as opposed to which side of their argument actually stands. It's much more fun that way, right?
Yeah. If you can reposition the argument, it'd have probably stayed. If you could have made it my reference frames and Earth turning underneath, as claimed by flat earthers, then he'd have argued all day about how he doesn't claim Earth turns underneath. Why does he claim Earth doesn't turn underneath when that's the claim the globe makes? Well, because he's not an expert and he can completely defy the globe claim as a non-expert.
Any other
The
globers?
funny thing is, only about 5 minutes earlier, we described about the problem with globers is even when you give them the answer, they still then rebut it, and even though it's recorded, they forget what they say. So we had a meme that we made. Well, I made a meme, sorry, called a globefish, like a globefish, the big round fish that look like a globe. The globefish have got a memory of a fish. Every 6 seconds, they forget literally what they just said. You've just told him the answer. He said, no, he didn't answer your question. He did answer it earlier. Any of them experts? You said them experts exist. Did you get me any of them? They're not obviously cats. Any of them experts? He answered it thoroughly. And then he's so fucking out of his mind. He still continues to argue that point. As if he hasn't been told the answer. Like he's got a point to say, oh, he hasn't answered me. And then when shown, actually reminded that he actually did get an answer. Didn't listen.
You noticed that, right? At the end, that's how he had to fix it. Oh, so no answer then, right? It's the same thing as virus. Oh, so you see how I'm attacking your argument, right? Oh, you see how I'm making you seem like you don't know what you're saying, right?
He's going to
These
go
are
on
all
another
tactics.
show.
These are all tactics, man.
Chocolate, he's going to go on another show and say that all Nathan did was yell at him, curse him out, and not answer his question.
Oh, poor guy. Poor globers.
They
What a
do
hell of a
that.
position to be in.
Chocolate, they do that in chat. The minute you engage one of these people, say on a comment in chat, say one of Nathan's shows, they start the conversation, and then you answer their question, and then they copy paste some big old long thing, and then they say, oh, because you didn't give an answer, I declare victory, I win.
Yep.
It cracks me up every time they self-proclaim their victory.
Yeah, and if you've got a biased moderator there who's already got a globe belief, that completely bastardized logic and declaration of a victory will be welcomed and declared also as a victory. Obviously, because they're biased. You try and point that out to somebody and they don't seem to understand that their bias does have an effect. Even after it's had an effect and you've pointed it out and they've ignored it. They say, no, even though I'm completely biased in favour of your opponent, that doesn't mean I'm going to be unfair.
It's great when they say, where's your model? Where's your model? I don't have a model. I actually don't know how big the Earth is. What I know is this, that your model falls short so bad that it's not what you say it is.
Well, what I've learned from this show is when I bring things up like gas pressure out of container or the geometric horizon, they say, oh, that's a Nathan Oakley QE argument. And I say, no, it's not. It's my argument. Give me an answer.
Oh, really? So Nathan and QE came up with the geometric horizon? Did they come up with the second law of thermodynamics?
Doesn't matter.
Because I always find that kind of funny when they say, oh, you're using his argument. Really?
No.
Nathan
Hold
came
on,
up
sorry,
with
Chocolate.
the second
Sorry.
law of thermodynamics?
I don't normally have to...
missed it, Nathan.
Hold on. Yeah, he did. So what Neil's saying is, if you provide a citation, the citation is only backing your argument. On its face value, a citation's a baseless assertion. Now, likewise, if you present an argument in a debate, regardless of its origin, it becomes your argument. So to hand-wave dismiss an argument because of its origin isn't addressing the argument. And Neil's saying, what I do is take ownership of the argument and say, nah, this is my argument. Can't you address my argument, friend? That's what Neil's saying.
That's correct, and I learned that from you guys.
it's a double-edged sword. Likewise, you can't blame the citation if you haven't figured out the argument or the argument itself didn't stand in the first place. So, if my argument didn't stand, Neil presented my argument, all bolsterous, and says, it's my argument, and then points out after it loses, well, actually, I got this argument from Nathan Oakley, so don't blame me. It's still your argument, remember that? Yeah? Even when you've taken ownership and lost, it doesn't mean the citation takes the blame.
True, and that's what, when I do that, when I pass the argument on, I do it so they can't use the person it came from as a diversion tactic, because they will go, "Oh, I'm not going to Nathan Oakley show because all he does is mute me and shout at me." And I think, well, it sounds like, like a girl who's been abused by a boyfriend or something. She goes, "Oh, all he does is he hits me." Why do you keep going back to him then? Like, well, I don't go back to him now because that is just abusive. But the thing is, they never stop talking and they never stop. They're watching now. They watch every one of your shows and everything that goes on every single time. That or they don't. They're really reluctant to, give you views and stuff like that. They're very they're very blacklist and very negative. Well, I'm losing my point now. Babbling on a bit too much. Once upon a time, there was a story there. I completely forgot it. Sorry.
Yeah. I'd like a point of order, Your Honor. Chocolate, I did not come up with the geometric horizon. I came up with the scientific method. Get it right.
I was just about to say that. Oh my God.
Sorry, you're actually taking credit for the scientific method now?
Yes, I'm its author.
I honestly spent an hour in chat last night. Glober's telling me it's QE's scientific method, literally.
Exactly.
Oh, that was it. Because I took the arguments to them, so they can't use the fact that it's coming from somebody I don't like. So I tend to say, well, I'm using this argument because so it's coming from me. Don't look at it; it's coming from that person. So
don't steal Neil's thunder.
That's what I say to them that's why I said Jen Panda and stuff like that. And he goes, "Yeah, but why would you listen to them?
What's up with that? I just said
why
that.
would you listen to Nathan Oakley? Why would you listen to Nathan Oakley?"
Look, man, we're in exalted company here, right? We have the author of the scientific method in our presence right now, so I'm truly humbled.
Yeah, me too. Terminator.
Grand High Exalted Mystic Ruler.
Gruler?
You know what? All this time, this QE's fault. I always thought it was Francis Bacon. Gosh darn it. Crap.
Wasn't only Francis Bacon.
I know. I'm just playing.
Yep. Just playing. Were you begging the question? Well, you didn't even ask a question.
How can I be begging the question if I'm not even asking a question? There you go. I'm going to take credit for that. Excuse me. Begging the question fallacy. I think you'll find I just made that up.
I think there's proper.
Yeah, that happens. Remember, guys?
Oh, that's right.
God.
I forgot about that. That's right. You're the author of that.
I got sent.
Wait, did we make up natural laws too? According to Rumpus?
Can a guy get a good pun in?
Go on, get your pun in, then I'll shout out somebody who donated as a result of that.
I think there's plenty of links to Francis Bacon.
Excellent stuff. So I actually got a substantial wad of money sent to me by somebody, and I'm not going to mention who she is, but that particular individual contacted me after they saw that something or naught was her name, but this woman came on and told me that I'd made up the begging the question fallacy, and I just tore into her. So this person contacted me and was like, when I next get paid, I'm going to send you a watch. I'm like, why? They're like, I hate that bitch. I'm so glad you ripped her a new one. I'm going to send you money. So I got paid for doing that after the fact. I'm not even joking. Thank you. You know you are. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. And I said this on the live show. If it wasn't for people like her, I wouldn't be doing this. That's how I survive.
They say that in the chat, too, that we made up natural law.
Like I say, if something defeats their argument, this is all becoming so clear to me now. The best tactic if you're an anti-flat earther is reposition the debunking into being a flat earth claim and attack that. There's no such thing as natural law, you made that up. There's no such thing as earth curve edge horizons, you made that up, didn't you, flat earther? No, that's your claim. That's what you believe if you're on a globe. No, nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve. Why are you telling people Earth curve's the horizon? Because here it is in your maths. And in your little diagram that says this is Earth curve with horizons in it. What do you mean, why am I suggesting that it is that? Is it because I've debunked it? And now you need to make it my claim that doesn't work. Oh, I see. How quaint.
What do you mean, Nathan? Well, show me a citation that the geometric horizon is visible. I don't believe you.
Yeah, here it is, marked to the next labelled horizon. You're begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculator. And in the document you're holding, labelled, this is Earth curve with pictures of horizons. There's my citation. It's you, Timmy Osman, Mr. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve when he realises it's been debunked by the Black Swan.
Does the National Geographic agree with Nathan?
Come again?
They underline the word visible in their definition of the geometric horizon.
I heard you pointing that on someone else's show.
That.
You said that on someone else's show recently. It might have been Spurs. Were you in 24/7 saying that recently?
I might have been. But I point that out whenever they want to say, "Oh, it's not. We can't see it." Oh, you can't. You might want to talk to National Geographic then, because they define it as visible. They underlined it for you.
So if you want the origin of this sort of stuff, right? Chocolate's a smart guy, and I'm not decrying what he's just said. He's absolutely bang on. But from day one, this has been part of the quantum eraser presentation. Same goes for Ballbusters last week, actually. So this past week that we did Ballbusters, we were covering refraction, and it was epic because it really did go into a lot more detail than some of the other shows. But for the most part, there was nothing new there. It's all been detailed. And that geometric visible location that is described by National Geographic, that was in the original presentation by QE, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying, it's more of a shout out to QE and a testament to how well researched. I've said this many times, right? I know you're here, QE, by the way. Sorry to talk about you in the third person. But back in the day, when QE did his debate with the Rumpus, and I saw it after the fact, just before I republished it, I said to him, nothing, and I do mean nothing, in the presentations, apart from a bit of spit and polish that doesn't alter any context, nothing about any of your debates and their points have changed at all since you've been here. Nothing. The consistency level is off the charts. You can go back to any one of QE's. If QE's there, you can take the information as read. That's a bold statement right there.
QE, I think if you're here, you need to tell them how you planned this whole thing. You got them all in the arena, and now it's time to open fire? Because I don't think everybody heard that.
He's eating pancakes.
Oh, by the way,
he's eating pancakes.
I can only think of one thing that's changed.
What's that? Hold on, go on.
When he says chemical formula structure, charge, matter, momentum, or spin. It used to be something else instead of matter.
Was it mass?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's refinement. That's a bit of spit and polish.
Yeah, that's the only one. That's what I'm saying. It's the only change that I could really think that he made. Other than that, yeah, you're right.
Oh, I mean, what I'm talking about is you're looking at a Where's Wally, and the difference between removing Wally from the picture and maybe colouring his pencil case a little bit more brown. That's we're talking subtle differences if you go back and compare anything from QE from the past to anything with QE now. The consistency is there. Yeah, obviously he's going to refine it to a certain degree, but it isn't really refinement. It's spit and polish. Anyway, anyone
or the Mandela effect.
Anyone want to praise QE? Subscribe today, Quantum Eraser channel.
QE is awesome when his computer is in working order.
Yeah, you need to smash his super chat just like you smashed mine. Anyone else want to sing his praises as he's disappeared?
Also, I've actually, when I started asking the question about, is space-time physical or is ether physical, kind of stole that little bit idea about charge, momentum, and spin from QE to answer that question. So, that underlying same thing. So I kind of say I own that now myself.
Yeah, copyright Paul 2019, right? Cool. Yeah, I've got a lot to be thankful for when it comes to Quantum Eraser, but with that I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to all of you for tuning in, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, smashing the super chat, becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. Also, below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Also, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panel for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!